I'm Mark McIntyre, Chairman of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation for the Village of Southampton. Joining tonight are John Gregory, board members John Gregory, Susan Stevenson, and Jeff Broadleib. And board member Jane Clare is with us by Zoom. Therefore, we have quorum. Motion to open the September 11th meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Also joining us, we have in person tonight Alex Wallach, our planning director, Alice Cooley, our counsel, and Jackie is not with us tonight. And so we have Charles Certain in the back running all things video and videography in the back. So with that, I believe we will move on. A couple of things before we get started. Our next meeting is September 25th, but I do want to remind people that we did move the deadline for materials back. So the deadline materials for the next meeting will be noon on Tuesday, September the 19th. Also, just for future planning, October 9th is Columbus Day when the village offices are closed. So the next meeting after September 25th will be October 23rd. Okay, so first thing on our agenda is minutes approval from August 28th. Did all board members receive the minutes and had a chance to read them?
Yes.
Are there any additions or corrections?
Nope.
Okay. Motion to accept the meetings of August 28th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jane? John?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next on the agenda are written decisions. The first is for 840 Meadow Lane LLC for a restoration of exterior alterations to a single-family dwelling. Is there any more detail you'd like to go into on that, Alice?
No, just wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to review it.
Okay. Everyone received the written decision
Yes.
and had a chance to review it?
Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, motion to accept the written decision to approve 840 Meadow Lane LLC. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda are adjournment requests. We have several, and I'm just going to do them in one fell swoop.
We also have the
Oh, did I miss it?
resolution for 765 Hill Street. The modification of the conditions.
It's at the top. Oh, don't you, here,
Hang on.
it's here.
Oh, sorry, it's an
That's the-
updated one. Okay.
The driveway.
Okay, so we have the motion, the 765 Hill Street.
Who saw that?
It's the ZAC recommendation for the construction methodology for 765.
Oh,
Yes.
No, so
No,
this
this is-
one is, sorry, there's
Clarification.
several things going on.
Yes.
This is the clarification.
So this one, we voted on at the last meeting.
Oh, is this your updated?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But I had put in here that we were clarifying condition number 6 of the January 9th, 2023 determination, that the condition for the construction methodology should only prevent the issuance of a building permit for the historic asset and not for the new house.
That clarifies what we talked
Oh,
about in the
yeah.
last meeting about splitting them out, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Did everyone have a chance to read it?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? So we need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hang on, so I get it correct. It's not on this one either.
Okay, just borrow mine for a minute. It's on the back of that first page.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, motion to accept the modification for 765 Hill Street LLC to modify the condition 5 of January 9th, 2023 Architecture Review Board approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. But now you make me wonder if all mine.
I think the rest of it.
Okay. So we have several motions for adjournments tonight. So I motion to accept the request for adjournment for 300 North Main Street LLC to September 25th. The request for 242 South Main Street LLC to September 25th. The request for 109 Hill Street to October 23rd. And the request for the Latch of Southampton Village, 101 Hill Street to October 23rd. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perhaps it's too late here. The one on Hill Street, 101, that's been
That's been,
delayed,
For
adjourned,
months and
adjourned. months.
Well, our policy has been to only adjourn so many times before it comes off. And I think we've reached that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that we ask the building department to communicate that the board is not going to grant a further extension after October 23rd.
Okay? Alex, you have that?
We'll make a note.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next up on the agenda then is for public hearings historic. The first over is a carryover matter, which is 39 Lewis Street, LLC at 39 Lewis Street. Is the applicant present? Great.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, I seem to have my phone and my computer going at the same time, but I'm worried if I hang up one of them, what happens? So I'm gonna have both.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
You just.
You appear to be frozen, but we can see you.
Yeah, I just froze. I see that. It is absolutely crazy raining in Manhattan right now.
Okay, thanks for the weather report.
Okay.
Well, that could be messing up the internet. That's why I say that.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna come out and come back in, okay? You can give me 1 second?
Okay.
Okay. Hi.
There you go.
Okay.
We see you,
Any,
and we hear you.
So what's he doing? Let's go.
Are you sharing your screen?
can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Jeez, doing the death. No.
No. Here's what I think I'm going to do, because we can't hear. I'm going to move on to the next application and see if, and then we'll come back and recall this, and we'll take them in reverse order to see if the applicant for 39 can figure out the communication.
Okay, I'm back.
Can you hear us?
I do.
Okay.
And like,
So go
I don't
ahead.
know what to do.
Okay, hi, everybody.
Okay.
This,
Okay, you're going to have to turn one of those two devices off because now they're creating an echo.
Or just mute one, just
Mute
mute
your
one.
laptop, or your, whichever is,
Now it's,
Okay, second call.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next application. We'll come back and recall this so we can give you a few minutes to straighten out. So next on the agenda is 50 Post Crossing for renovation to convert an existing barn.
Coming in, Brian.
Yes, should be Brian Brady.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Brian. Hang on one sec. There you are. Hello.
Okay. Hi. Can everyone see me? Yeah.
We
All
can,
right,
and we
let
can
me
hear
share
you.
my screen. Okay. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the last meeting when I presented, there was Zach did a report on this existing barn, which I did not have. So we adjourned to today, and then members of the board came out to look at this barn. And these are the revisions that came out of that meeting. And basically, the idea is to make everyone understand that there is nothing being demolished here, and that we are trying to preserve this barn and every aspect of the historic nature of it. So you can see where we are today. If you look at the lower left, this is the existing barn as it is. It has barn siding on it. It has hatch doors on it. It has this extension that was a garage. And my last proposal was actually taking off part of the extension. And then we went inside and looked at the original framing that was there, and the extension that I was taking off actually had the original framing. So we want to put all that back. So the new proposed design keeps the structure exactly as it is with no changes in terms of its mass. The changes will be we are also, originally I was proposing shingles, and now we're doing the barn siding, we're putting it back. We're keeping the existing doors in the locations where they were with the same type of strap hardware. The back garage entrance will look exactly the same with the barn doors and the strap hardware. The changes are going to be in a little bit of the window configuration. Right now, there's an existing window here, and I'm keeping that window and adding a second window into it. This is going to become a little wet bar in there. And then in the main area here, this is where I am doing pocket doors that will open all the way. My client really wanted to feel more like an outdoor living room. So these pocket doors will go back in, and then the window above it will be the exact dimension of the existing hatch and transom above to let light into it. You can see on the other things here, this dimension here, there are some old windows that are in very, very bad shape. So we're mimicking the style of the old windows and adding a few more. This right now is an existing, it's not even a window, it's a piece of plastic. So we're putting a window there and adding one there, and I'm removing all of the skylights. Okay, let me come back to here. Okay, my original design was to make it feel more like a pool house, and it had shingles and everything else, and it was just converting that structure. Now I'm trying to preserve it into the barn that is there, and just making the use inside a different use, but keeping the feeling of an old existing barn. Okay, comments?
Okay. Board members?
Start down on that end.
Oh, and you want?
The only issue I have is, I should start. Brian, I very much appreciate the fact that you've keeping the feeling of a barn by going from the shingles to what otherwise would be traditional barn siding.
Right.
I guess it's unrealistic to think that you could keep the barn door on the east elevation, but because otherwise,
When we were there, we talked about maybe using the existing barn doors as shutters and things like that. My client was just very adamant about that. She really thinks that, back here, she wants this outdoor living room space, and so that's what we're proposing.
Gotcha. And even on the second floor, the hayloft opening and short and transom window, that's also been
Right.
replaced. I don't know. Let's see how the other board members feel about that.
Yeah, this is the only elevation where there's really something, drastic happening, if you will, but I tried to get the feel of a big open barn door opening and the hatch opening with the transom above. If you take it in abstract, that's the size of this opening.
John?
Did Zach determine that this is a historic structure? I forget.
Yes,
Yes,
Zach did determine it's historic.
So if that's the case, should we even be considering the change in fenestration of a historic structure? We wouldn't for other structures in the village.
I agree with you. I find
Yeah.
it just doesn't, I mean, if it's a barn, then it needs a barn door and the hatch. Maybe the barn door could be constructed in a way that it could open to please the client in some way.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as I'd be willing to go.
Well, on a historic structure,
I don't think it looks like a barn anymore.
the mantra is
That's all.
repair, restore, replace. I
Yeah.
see major changes taking
Right.
place on this
Well,
historic structure.
If you have pocket windows,
Well, you don't have to.
no, but I'm saying, if you have pocket windows, they're gonna recess into the inner wall.
Right.
You could still have the barn
opening.
doors,
Go
which
that way, yeah.
which would open up. Now, during the summer, they would probably always leave them open, but during the winter, which is they're not going to be using the pool for 6 to 9 months out of the year, the barn door could remain closed. I don't know why you have to necessarily lose the barn door.
Well, I think there would be a way to actually have the barn door be a pocket that was the visual of it without opening this way, it could slide. What would prevent you
Oh.
from doing that? I mean, if you're starting over, if you're making it, not preserving it, right?
Hmm.
And certainly the window, that's just, I won't go along with that. I could be talked into some other things on the door, but I'm not sure what they are. I think it's disappointing, actually, that it turned into something else.
Jane? Jane, do you have comments?
I don't know. She
Okay.
can-
I have a couple of questions. In the the opening at the bottom where the doors are now, where the barn doors were before, have you widened that? Have we increased the width of that from the original
I did
structure?
widen that to give it an outdoor room feeling.
Okay.
You had, I mean, granted, this was a barn and there were horses in it and everything else, and we're trying to preserve it as a structure, but it's not a barn anymore. I mean, this is, it's now a living space that we're trying to keep the character of the old barn and to the best way possible, but make it function as the living space that my clients want.
I don't think it does anything.
Let me ask a question about the window that's over the on the second floor. When we looked at it originally, when there was a transom and a hay door, there was a thought about keeping the hay door.
Right.
It would almost open to have a window behind it, but it would retain the original intent, which was the transom that was over the hay door. And now it's gone to one big window.
Right. I presented that to my client with the idea of using the big barn doors as shutters, and she was adamant that that's what she did not want.
Okay.
So that's why I'm presenting this to you.
Okay.
And I thought by taking this overall size of the hatch with the thing and making it a window would be something that you would prefer. But it's not gonna fly with her, so.
Brian, my question is about the barn siding. You said you were going to be putting it back. Are you reusing the same siding?
No, it's not the original siding as it is. It's been redone a few times, but it will look like what's there.
But it will be new. It won't be, let's say, reuse lumber from another site?
No, I see what you're saying. Reclaimed old wood?
Yes.
Yeah, we could look at that, sure. But I mean, really, it's just barn siding, so
Right, but in the rendering, it looks modernish only because it's.
yeah, that's the rendering though.
Yeah, I understand it's a rendering, but when you first said putting it back, I did quote that and I said, oh, great, they're going to reuse it and.
Yeah.
just about
No, I
that.
mean, this barn has lots of problems. I mean, it's leaning, structurally it's not sound, it's rotted out. I basically have to gut it, from the outside and see what I'm dealing with in order to preserve it.
Well, I would have to agree with Jeff about the barn door, I think. If there's a way to save that, then it still looks like a barn.
I think we're struggling to accommodate the client when I don't think we can.
Do you think we are? I don't think we are.
Well, I know maybe we're not struggling.
We're being
I say
asked to.
we're being okay. Thank
Okay.
you. I knew that didn't sound right
Just
coming
wanna
out of my
correct the
mouth.
record.
So, and I think that's it. We're compromising on a barn structure that, at the end of the day, is no longer a barn. It's a pool house that happens to have vertical siding like a barn that is not even the original siding. So, I think.
So I think, I think what goes on inside there is not our purview, but what it looks like is.
To the outside is.
And if it's historic, that's even more
Mhm.
of a job for us. And I think that they'll have to be structured in a way that will suit us, and if he can get his client to agree to it, good for him. I don't know what else to say. We can't be getting directives from the client. We're
No,
supposed
no,
to do
our
our
job is to
Okay.
preserve the history. We're the Board of
Right. And I
Historic
don't
Preservation,
think,
so.
I personally don't think it's, I
I-
think it would
yeah.
work fine as a pool house, that's why.
I come from two places on it. First of all, I think we've come a very far away from where we were last time, because we're now at a place that we're preserving the original footprint, the original structure. One thing we did talk about on site was maintaining the original openings, but now the opening on the first floor has gotten wider, so we're actually widening a historic opening, and that window that's above feels heavy, but it also doesn't honor the original intent, which was that it had a transom over a door. I understand the client may not be their first choice, but I think we're not hearing support from the board to contemporize the opening of this house, this historic structure toward the pool area. We seem to be adding a couple of windows here and there, which to me is not a quibble so much as the quibble that I would see is on the width and the design of the door, and not taking the historic references of the hay barn or the hay opening at the top into consideration for the current window. I think that's what we're hearing.
Agreed?
I don't think we would consider the change in fenestration of a historic home in the village of Southampton. Surely we've seen examples the last few weeks before us that we were very specific about what could and could not be done with the fenestration on a historic property. I see no difference here.
So Brian, I think you're here for the board. Let's see if there are any public comments. Are there any public comments?
And while we wait for that, Brian, I just want to make sure the document that you're showing, if you could please provide to the building department in digital copy. I didn't see it in our Dropbox, so I just want to make sure we have that on the record.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The document you're showing right now with the elevations, if you could please provide a digital copy of that. I didn't see it online.
I dropped off copies and I actually put it into Dropbox twice, and for some reason it keeps disappearing, and I don't know, I was shocked when I went tonight to find it in Dropbox, and I was like, where is it? No, I put it in there twice.
All right, we'll figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah, if not, I'll email it again to Rohit and.
Okay, thank you.
We're in there, yeah.
Thank you. So we don't have any comments from the public. I think you now have the comments from the board. To go back to your client with, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to my client, we'll adjourn, and we'll see where we end up.
Okay. Motion to accept the request for adjournment can you be ready for September 25th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn, the client's request to adjourn 50 Post Crossing to September 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's
Okay,
go back.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go back and recall 39 Lewis Street and see if he is able to communicate now.
Can everybody hear me now?
We can.
Yep.
Hang on one side until we can
second.
see you.
To clear Brian
Give
Brady.
Charles
hold
just,
on.
give
One
Charles
second.
just a minute here.
Gotta put your video on.
Oh, Jim, can you turn your video on?
Yeah, I'm trying. There it goes.
There you are. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, hi, everybody. Anthony Averman, my architect Vermandois might be on. I'm not sure if he's able. But as everybody may recall, some people attended, some people didn't. We had a site visit last week. Thank you all for coming at 39 Lewis Street. Fresh off our new, very yellow, but hopefully soon to be gray siding on the house. And there were two things before this board, and I thank you for the consideration, which is one is to square off my garage and turn it back into the rectangle that it originally was. And also to be permitted to replace the windows on the second floor. We'd had an extensive meeting on site. It was noted, I believe, by someone there that essentially there's aluminum windows in the house sort of smashed into wood frames. Of course, I have no history on the house on that front. There was no building department records. I certainly have nothing. I have no idea when those aluminum windows were put in, maybe the 50s, maybe 60s, 70s. I don't know. There's about 14 of them left right now. They're single frame, and most of them open up into bathrooms, which is a little peculiar, especially my concern being that for cold air coming in the winter, and significant energy loss. Back when I had met you guys last time, before the adjournment, I made sure to submit some materials. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to take a look at them, but it essentially was some various pictures and historical documentation on the garage, and which was probably a barn in the old days, and became and included in that was actually an old survey from the 70s that showed it as a garage. Before that, it was known as a two-story structure of some sort. And also some various pictures of the window materials and sort of their, in my view, decrepit nature. So that's really, and of course, I mentioned to you at the last meeting that I am no longer interested in relocating the pool or the pool house toward the driveway side of the property. And I hope everybody remembers that. So that's where we stand. I hope you've had a chance to think about it, and just let me know what you think. That's all.
Okay. Board members. For the public record, there were a site inspection. 3 of us were able to make it. We were not all there together. We were there, but separate. So I would like, I guess the 2 board members that were on the site inspection, if you want to start there. Jeff, do you want to start, or Susan?
Either way, Susan, you want to start, me? Go ahead.
So,
Or you may have to
I'm
put the
more,
mic.
I'd like to hear what other people say about the garage. As far as the windows are concerned, I have no problem, but there are inserts with aluminum around them that go into the wooden sashes that are also in terrible shape. So I have no objection to your doing to the windows on the second floor of what you did on the first floor, as long as you do exactly what had been agreed upon. As far as
The Marvin windows.
well, I don't know, whatever windows, but they're not, and the outside needs to be retained, the wooden, right? We agree on that? Right, the garage, I would like to hear what other members say, since we're not allowed to talk and we're on the site visit, I have no idea.
Okay.
And
Okay, since I was out there as well, so I agree with Susan that the windows that are currently there have either in disrepair or not worthy of saving, or have otherwise been bastardized in a way that they're not original. So to the extent that, Jim, you replace them, I'll say in kind, but not in kind being aluminum and any other stuff, but basically in kind being true wood windows with actual panes that are 2/2, as opposed to single panes with false mullions. That would be acceptable to me. Then is the garage. The garage, when we looked at it, was actually different than I thought it would be, because it looks like a whole section had been added onto it. You could see the inside of what was the original roof, rafters and beams, such that the original garage is not the original garage. It's been extended to the east, and therefore you're sort of left with this little bump out, if you will, or at least cutout. It's more a cutout. So squaring that off, to me, I don't object. It's going to be a rectangular, it's going to look more like the barn that it probably originally was.
The original structure.
Yeah. And we're only talking about maybe a cutout of 4 by 4, if it's that much.
I think it was about 4 by 6 when we pasted off.
Okay.
I was unable to make the site visit. However, I agree with Jeff on the garage. I think if it is going to restore it to more what was in keeping with the original structure, I think that's fine. My only question about the windows on the second floor, where there are windows that are like aluminum, like, obviously modern construction, I'm totally for those being replaced. But if there were actually original windows that were missing weights, or the weights needed to be repaired, that's to me a different story.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the condition.
Yeah.
They had put these, like if they say they're gonna, I mean, they did this on my house. They bring this,
Can you turn your microphone, please?
they bring something that they put into the window
It's an
that's
insert.
already there. And so the thing that they put it in was in such disrepair, and by putting the aluminum or surround with the glass, it made it worse, honestly. I don't
Actually.
think it's I think it would be more true to the house to just have
Or, yeah,
standard. If, I thought the first floor windows looked pretty good. So if they could repeat that upstairs, then maybe we'd have something going on that was great.
that's
How's
fine.
that?
That's fine. My only concern was if there were any
No,
original
we
windows.
We looked.
Wait, look, they did not, when you looking at the hardware, and the locks and the various systems on the windows, they not to know a lot about it, but they appeared to be more like from the replacements, probably in the
Okay.
40s or 50s. They were not original to the house.
That was my only question.
Because walked around by myself on the second floor and looked them all to see if there were,
I
for
looked
that
at
very
them all
reason.
today.
Yeah.
And I agree with Jeff. I think the garage, I don't object to extending the little part.
Well, the thing I'd like to see is, do we actually have a drawing of the proposed extension of this? Because
Good thing.
the extension would not actually square out. It would not totally square out the structure, because right now you have a barn roof, and then part of it has a shed roof that comes off it, which is part of the extension. So I think your proposal is to take the shed and move it to the full width of the barn. Is that correct? Or are you taking the shed off?
I'm just gonna fill in that 4 by 6 area.
So
I would love to figure out how to share my screen with, I have that little package that might be on your desk, everybody. Do you
Yep.
see where it starts out by saying number 2, garage materials?
Yeah.
I would
We have
love to
that.
share that with you for just a second. But of course, I really don't know how
because
to do it.
I
here.
guess the thing I'm concerned about is when you go across there, and this is my opinion, when you go across there, the original curtain wall that's out on the, I guess it's the east side of the garage, we'd be tearing out historic material, because you're going to open that up. Because you have to take that wall down and reinforce
No.
it somehow, or are you just going across?
I'm just literally making it back into a perfect, I think it's a rectangle, it's not really a square. I'm bringing that little bump out, I'm bringing it out. I'm not
Yeah.
messing with the wall, with the door on it,
Okay.
just bringing it out. Anthony, am I not saying it right?
Well,
Yeah, you're basically saying it right. Yeah.
all right. Well, saying it right, and this is maybe where Mark is going, is, but we don't see it. So we need to see it.
There should be drawings in the file
I
when we
don't have
originally
it.
did the application.
I'm going
I
through
don't
it.
have
Hang
an
on.
elevation that shows the detail.
No,
Well-
that's not helpful.
I don't actually see elevations or drawings of the proposed change to the barn.
He's got,
They,
No, no,
you
no,
should
That was
have
50 post.
oh,
Sorry,
we don't have it.
wrong one.
We don't seem to have it. Maybe we'll,
I have something from May 2nd.
It
Really?
may be in an early, may have been previously submitted.
Well, I
for
have-
the
I
record.
have-
It was
Second.
on the, yeah, it was previously submitted with the original application when we were proposing to move the pool house. So it should be on that same sheet of drawings there.
Which we're not doing on the pool house and the pool, for the record.
I don't see the point. but-
You should have a sheet there somewhere in your file, P1 there, that shows the proposed pool house, which, as we have said, we're
Anthony,
not doing. And then
can you
it also
share?
includes on that drawing
Oh, hang
the
on.
elevation of the barn, floor
Anthony, can you
plan and
share,
elevation of the
There
barn.
we are.
can you share your screen, Anthony?
Okay.
So you're not
I
actually
don't have
so
the
you're not
drawing
going.
myself. I've got to sort of
Okay,
switch it
yeah.
into
Is
another.
that it? You wanna put it on the, down there?
Yeah.
I will.
Oh, here we go.
I can't get out of here, none of us can.
None of us can.
We're
The
trapped,
chairs are
but that's
too-
fine.
This is the part that's being removed.
No, it's being filled in.
Filled in
so
here.
they-
We're not removing anything, we're
coming
filling
this
in.
way. Here. It's coming out here.
Okay.
And maybe the,
Hang on.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Can you put
everybody.
that on screen?
I have also.
Yeah.
Just make sure that we're all.
Okay, I can show the drawing now if anybody wants to see it.
Why don't you show it?
Okay,
Why don't you show it?
Okay. Give me 1 minute here. Share screen.
See what I'm wondering, are they tearing this wall down?
I think that's it.
Is that framing material going?
all right.
All right. Can you see now?
No.
no. Oh,
Up there. It is.
yes.
Okay. All right. So you see this little,
That's it.
Right.
that's what we're filling in, this little box here.
Right.
And all we're doing is taking this sort of shed that they added at some point to the original barn, right, and just extending that out over.
Making the shed dormer, yeah.
But are you? Here's my question. Can you see this? I don't know if this is possible. If you're looking,
One second.
there is a curtain wall. There's a wall here to the original barn that has the original framing still in it. So when you make that wider, you actually removing this historic material from that barn and making it one big open space, or is the wall remaining?
The wall behind it, where the cursor is,
Yep.
is coming out. That's
So-
coming out.
So you
That-
are
that's
removing.
inside.
Okay, so
Yes.
you are removing that historic material then.
But that's in, yeah, that's inside the barn.
All right. Well, it's the historic frame. It's the wall. It's the original wall. It's the original
No, it's-
historic framing to the bar.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
So then the question goes, given that, just various board members' comfort level with that.
I think it's okay.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah.
John?
You have the votes.
John, you
so it
might-
doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. So it feels like you have all sorts of agreement on the windows. And thank you for the time. First of all, I do have to again say thank you for the time and attention you're putting. This is an important historic house. And driving by and looking at it, we've all driven by and looking at it, and the attention to detail to maintaining its aspect to the neighborhood is very much appreciated. You have 100% support on the windows, and it sounds like you have enough support on the barn. So at this point, we'll just go to public comment. Public comment?
I have none.
Okay, we have none.
Just for the purposes of Alice writing up the written decision, can you reference what that drawing is?
It's
I see a
P1.
large drawing of, well, it's P1, but is it dated revised 4/18?
Yeah. If you would like, I could submit a revised version of P1 there that just takes off the pool house that we're not doing and just shows the garage, just so it's a little more clear.
Okay,
Does that help you?
What do you say?
It doesn't matter, does it?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter. I think the P1 drawing that from May 5th is the most
Okay,
accurate.
with the absence of the pool house. Okay.
And it says revised for 1823, if it's the document that I'm
Is that
looking at.
on my version?
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
But the barn is.
Okay, so motion to move motion to move to written decision to accept the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. We're doing our best to
Thank
make
you.
this a very special house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
So that was
Okay.
for written decision.
That's for written decision.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so the next are adjournment. Next up, that moves us to new matters, and the first new matter we have in historic is 840 Meadow Lane LLC at 840 Meadow Lane for construction of 3 detached accessory garages.
Windmill Lane in Southampton. Peter Marino and I believe Craig Spiegel from his office should be on Zoom to actually present
What's the
this. Peter Marino and
Okay.
Craig Spiegel.
Okay. Peter's coming in.
Okay.
I don't see Craig, but Peter's.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
I hear you.
Okay, we're at the office in New York. Are we screen sharing? It's very modern.
You can screen share.
You can screen share. And please start by introducing yourself for the record.
Okay, I'm Peter Marino, the architect for 840 Meadow Lane. And the presentation is a request for 3 garages. And I'm going to start by showing you a garage that had been added to the original. I mean, this is for 3 completely new structures that don't exist on the property, so it's not part of our renovation. And what the client needs, with over 17 bedrooms, they need a few more garage spaces. This is the historic garage that had been added in 1935, which has the concrete that looks like stone walls and the wonderful terracotta roof. What we're proposing is to copy this existing building, the same proportion of the roof to the walls, the same concrete construction of the walls, and to make 3 three-car garages, the same height as that existing one, but it would be elongated. We're desperately trying to have no requests for variances, so we were proposing 3 800 square foot accessory buildings rather than one long one. I had played around with making 4 that were the same as our one, but it started looking like a little too much like a village, and I want this to look like garages. The height of the roof here is hidden by an existing hill, which is 28 feet high on the site. So if you can see, maybe you can blow this up on the screen. There's a giant existing screen here, a big hill. And this hill goes to 28 feet, and our proposed new roof would be at 26. This is the existing driveway now for service. And because the client has said, I want no requests for variances, we are 90-foot setback from this road, and we are 150 feet from the wetlands as required by law. So the location of the garages is all in compliance with existing setbacks and laws. And aesthetically, I'm asking your approval to copy this 1935 garage. which I find quite adorable. I don't know. So that's the request.
I have a question for Alex, actually. When you look at the ground plan, the flood zone line goes through one of the structures?
This pink one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Does
Part
that-
of why we were raising, if you recall, a month ago, we were desperate to raise the basement levels, which are well below the flood line.
Right, but this is a new structure.
But
But-
it wouldn't apply to be elevated for habitable space. because
It's also existing grade on our surveys showing it at around 12. We're in an A9 flood zone, so even at existing grade, it would be compliant with elevation requirements in that location.
Okay. Board members?
I'm just curious about why this wasn't part of the plan that we saw previously and that we approved. Why did this come up now?
We actually had been focusing on trying to get the approvals in place for the main house before we focused on the garage structures, just because we'd like to pull the building permit for the main house as soon as possible. So we had filed this as a separate application after review of the house was filed.
Okay. Well, did you want to add more to that, Susan?
You better not.
Well, you're welcome to. Yeah, whatever the motivation was, it would not change my view. And that is when, Peter, you and your team came before us, you presented a beautiful drawing, a beautiful concept that flows with the dune, that is very much a restoration and is highly commendable. And whether these three garages were presented then or now, my reaction would have been the same, which is that I recognize the need for more parking, but I find the three garages ganged up like that at the front of the property, visible from the street, takes away from the very vision and mission you had in restoring this property. I would wish that aesthetically that there could be perhaps fewer garages and perhaps located elsewhere. And maybe you experimented with that. And whether it's three separate garages ganged up like they are, to me, it's incompatible with the overall design that you've created and the placement of these in relationship to the main house and to the surrounding properties. I think it takes away, and I would like to think that there's a more creative way to accommodate some additional spaces. I don't know if you can accommodate as many spaces as the client would wish, but that's not our issue.
John?
I actually would agree with Jeff. I think the format and the placement gives the appearance of a multi-purpose, not multi-purpose, but a multi-family property. And I just think it's incongruent with the stature of the house itself.
Jane?
You won't be able to see this from the road with the planting. So I don't think that comment is relevant, and you can't see it from the house.
I beg your pardon?
And by the way, you can't see the house from the road at the moment.
We have to.
Well, you cannot see the house from the road. You cannot see it from the road.
That's fine. No comment.
So
Jane,
that
Jane, did you have comments? Hang on.
Yeah, I would agree with both Jeff and John that it's kind of ganged up and where, can you go back to the screen, sharing your screen so we can see where it's located as in accordance to the other garage?
The original garage, I believe that they're showing goes over by the parking court off the secondary drive, off the surface driveway, I think.
Right, and I just wanted to say that that seems to make more sense than putting it in front of the house.
If you stand at the side, it's not in front of the house, it's behind this very high hill. And I think putting it here, driving up, is sort of hideous. My God.
Excellent.
I guess my opinion is.
So now you have three car garages, and then how many cars in the other garage? Is that 3 also?
2. The existing 1935 structure is 2.
2, okay. That does seem excessive.
When I drove down, and actually, that's funny, when I drove down Meadow from 2020 all the way down to the curve, looking to see if there was precedent for this, my first thought was, I don't see a lot of front yard accessory garage buildings, so then I went aerial. And there are actually several on Meadow. There's one at 730, there's one at 140, there's one at 450. But when I look at them, they're tucked back in a way that when you're driving down the street, they're hidden and they're tucked back in a way. What concerns me about this is if they were to the east versus if they are to the west, if they were farther up the property. Well, when you're driving down Meadow, you look in, the first thing you see looking up the driveway would be 9 garage doors, and it just feels wrong or not proper for that part of Meadow. And I also think it takes away from the aesthetic of the house because they don't feel hidden, they feel too visible. So I'm wondering if there's another location where they could be moved to that's not as visible or could they be across from each other? Could there a way that where we're not looking at 9 garage doors, which starts to look like a commercial property?
The only way they could have been opposite each other is if we required a variance. We have to be set back 90 feet. This was based on the required setbacks. So when you ask me, is there another location? Certainly you don't want them this way. You don't want them parallel to the road. That's when you would see 9 doors. This is a required setback in both directions. That's how we got this corner. Is your objection to the fact that I'm asking for 3 of them, or the aesthetic of the architecture?
Ask the board members that question.
And is it in your preview to say whether or not you want to see 3 of them? Aren't you only supposed to comment on the aesthetic of the garage?
No, because this is in the
I always thought
historic.
you
No,
would tell us
because
what
we're in
we're
the
supposed to be
historic
doing.
district. Because we're in the historic district,
I'm
we actually
asking
have.
you what you're
No, it's
supposed
a
to
fair
do.
question because it's in the historic district. We have purview over plan and location.
The board isn't objecting to the use. They're not objecting to the fact that there would be 3 garages for too many cars and that would be, in their personal opinion, excessive. They're objecting to the appearance from the road of having so many garage doors and these structures that, in their view, would block the view of the house.
Right, and it can be found in section 65-5B, C4, visual compatibility with surrounding properties, including proportion of property's front facade, proportion and arrangement of windows and other openings within the facade, roof shape, and the spacing of properties on streets, including setback. So, so it does fall within our purview, and yes, Peter, it is an aesthetic issue. It's an aesthetic of how 3 structures closely, not abutting each other, but just spaced closely together. I think John put it aptly that it looks like it's the entrance to a multi-family, or in fact, even a bit of a commercial look, which I know is not your intent, so please don't be insulted by that. But it has...
I thought by lighting them this way, the most you would ever see is 1 corner. Were you to line them up the other way, I would agree with you.
No, how about if you put somewhere else?
I mean, I really would agree with you if they were this way and they were all parallel. I purposely put them this way because I thought you'd only see 1 corner at the most, and planting would cover all the rest. I
Do we
thought
have
you could.
renderings?
I'm sorry?
Do we have renderings?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
Would
maybe
it
that-
also be helpful if perhaps we were to locate where the garages are going on the property and the board were to go see on site how far back they are, because they are in excess of 90 feet from the street?
See, part of my problem is that the first thing that you would see is is 3 large garages, correct? That's what you're presenting. And so if we were on a village street, you could, even front-facing garage, they don't, this isn't front-facing. That's a lot of accessory. It's like, okay, from my perspective, the public gets to see the garages. And I'm not sure that that's really I don't think that's the intent, but that's the reality of it.
I think
I
Bailey,
don't
you're
think
offering
they were
shrouding.
I don't think if they were set back, you would see them, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good idea to put little plywood corners and show you just how
Yeah.
little you see them.
If we were to locate them on
Back
site,
much
it might
further,
help
they-
to show, as Peter's mentioning, how far back from the street that these structures at 16 feet in height, 90 plus feet from the street, are really not going to be visible from the roadway.
You can do that, but I've driven it, I pulled in. In fact, I dare say that with these structures placed there, the service entrance will look better than the main entrance. Now, can you put some of those, whether it's 2 units or 1 unit or whatever, where the existing garage is and the stone drive service entrance? Maybe that's it. I don't know if that causes a problem with zoning or not. That's not what this board is an issue with. We're here to make one of 2 decisions, either approve it or deny it based on the aesthetics and the other elements in the code. I expressed my concerns, and to the extent that you and Peter want to try to work on alternative solutions or presentations, fine. It's fine to go ahead and do it, not fine that it's going to change my opinion.
Well, if the issue is how the structures are viewed, and you're concerned about that,
We should
and,
go.
and the applicant is offering to demonstrate how they're
Yes,
viewed,
I was
shouldn't we
actually going to, I think that is the
Yes,
next right, I think that is the next right step, because right now, there's enough discomfort with not only the number of garages, but the location of garages and the possible impact. And for 730, 140, and 450, they're all single structures that are tucked in. Now, one of them is a 4-car garage, but it's a single structure. You pull in the driveway, but it's tucked back to the left, and it's not visible, and it's out of the way. You can't see it up the driveway. As a matter of fact, you don't know it's there until you look at an aerial. So I think 2 things. I think going and taking a look at it and understanding it is probably the right next step. So I would suggest that we adjourn this application pending a site inspection, which can be organized by Alex in the building department.
Okay. So you want to have a site inspection prior to any shrouding or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we should do,
It's pretty
yes, I think we should do a site
basic
inspection.
where
And
it
if
is.
we are not comfortable with, the next step, if we're not comfortable with what we saw, would then become shrouding.
Okay.
But I think a site inspection is probably faster. And is probably the
I'm
next
sorry, I
appropriate
don't
next step.
understand what the word shrouding means in this context.
We've actually, in other contexts, had people erect lumber and put shrouding around the lumber so you could understand the visual impact of it. We're not asking for that right now. I think what we're asking for right now is a site inspection to better understand, because there seems to be a large enough level of discomfort here that feels like the right next step.
You don't think a corner of the first one would help in plywood?
If you have time and inclination to put that up before the site inspection, everything is probably helpful.
I was going to say I wouldn't mind seeing it myself.
So I would say that everything is helpful.
Can I ask a question before we move on?
Okay.
I know
We also need public comment.
before you go public comment, I know the site adjoins a road that's not opened there. Is there any screening between the proposed parking there and that road?
There is screening now, and of course we would increase it. There's quite a lot. Do you have a picture of the existing to show you?
Because it
I mean,
looks like there's about 5 feet between the proposed parking and the road.
Yeah, you'll see what's there. There's some scruffy pines.
So, and am I right?
There's not formal, I would tell you from being there multiple times, there's not formal screening there. There's existing scruffy long-term planting right now.
The image looking, yeah, well, there you are. Does that help? Do you see those photos?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
Okay.
natural,
That's the-
it's natural scrub trees that sort of separate it right now. Are there any comments from the public?
No?
Okay. Then I hear asking for an adjournment. Okay. Motion to adjourn 840 Meadow Lane LLC, pending a site inspection by the board, for a site inspection from the board. Is there a second?
To which date?
Can they come back? Join us at
I think we should
25th?
adjourn it to October 20. Well, how fast can you get the question is how fast do you think you can get the lumber up and ready for inspection?
I could probably maybe 10 days, 2 weeks.
Right.
So we'll
Right, so
adjourn
why don't
till
we adjourn
25th.
this to October 25th? Okay? So motion to adjourn 840 Meadow Lane to October 25th to allow time for a board site inspection. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so that moves us to public hearings non-historic. The first up is 10 North Woolley Street for construction of two-story single-family dwelling. As a carryover matter, is the applicant here?
Is he?
He's coming in.
Good evening, board members. Ryan Kesson, architect here. How are you doing?
Hello, doing well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So this is 10 North Woolley, as you know, and we've made some adjustments as per your suggestions and hoping you like them. So may I share my screen? Can you see my screen, board members?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, great. So most of the comments, or actually all the comments, were really about the architectural design and facade of this project. Some of them were the windows up in the gables, which we have removed. Others were the curvature on the doors, the recessed windows and recessed doors. Another one was the diamond cuts on here. And another one was regarding this balcony, which you deemed inappropriate. So we went along with it and we eliminated it all together. I don't believe there was anything else outstanding with regard to the architecture. And as always, I like to keep this short and sweet, so may I have your comments, please?
Didn't you add windows in the back?
We didn't add any windows to the back.
You didn't?
No.
Well, how come there's, okay. I
No,
know
we
there are a lot
actually-
more than I saw before, but I could be.
No.
Between.
We actually reduced because this over here was a door. So this was originally 3 panels over here. So this
How
got
about-
reduced
How
greatly.
about the smaller windows in the middle?
Nope, everything's exactly the same. All we did was, originally these guys were split apart and we opted to mold them together.
Well, it looks like an awful lot of glass back there all of a sudden to me. I'm sorry. I don't know what,
No, it might be a visual.
really?
It might be a visual because when they added the slope roof, here's what
It
was
was a
there before,
recess,
and then here's what it is now. So when they bring this down,
This door goes into shadow.
right, that will go into shadow,
that's
but it
covered.
makes it look more prominent than it might have
But
in this one.
these windows are bigger here. No?
No,
This is bigger.
they're just moved. These are
No,
just,
these aren't. What's this?
no, these are the same.
Who's this?
Can you see the previous plan right now, or do I need to reshare it?
This is the new thing. So what do we?
You know
I'm
what?
not
Hang
feeling
on.
Like going, counting the window.
You're making sure you're looking at the right
I'm
elevations?
pretty sure.
I think
September 1st, 2020.
Ryan, do you have the?
Yes.
no, actually, I think,
These are the
These
older
are-
elevations where we had the windows split apart.
That's the front.
and the
Yeah.
ones, the drawings we're looking at are dated September 1, correct?
I believe, let me just check.
The new
Okay.
ones.
Okay, so,
8:30 should be the,
so previously there were these recessed windows, right?
Right.
yeah.
Which were changed. No? But in the
Yes,
back,
14.
I'm talking, in the back, I find it. Just seems like too much, an awful lot of glass. I see that the one thing is covered, the middle.
I see.
Isn't something
Uh,
different?
yeah.
The balcony was removed
The balcony, in fact, there are fewer windows. I think,
from the original
yeah.
Yeah.
proposal.
All we did is we molded them together, that's it.
Yep. There were originally 4 windows here that went down to this gang of 3. These 2 were just the same size brought together. These windows were originally a series of sliding doors. And these windows were 2 sets of double sliders. Whoops, hang on. Sure, look at the right thing. No, that's, I'm sorry, these were 3 access to a balcony. The balcony was removed. These are the same size and these remain the same. I would say that from my perspective, I don't find it to be too much glass. Because it faces toward the garage and it doesn't face this is the side, it faces north. And I think we've had an actual, by losing the balcony and the reduction in the window size back there, and the 2 sets of sliders, are those 8 foot or what size are those window sliders on the ground floor?
These are 8 foots.
Okay, so those are 8-foot triple gang sliders. They're not, I don't find them, to me, that's just my opinion, is I don't see too much glass. That's
I'm
my
curious,
opinion.
there's sliders under the removed balcony now, there's a covering over that, and there's sliders to the side, so there's, how many sliders along there?
There's
1,
2
2,
sets.
3, 4, 5, 6 sliding glass doors, is that correct?
Yes, and originally we had, I believe we had a 12-foot door here, and we reduced it down to 3. So we did compromise on that on a previous application.
I would agree that it's a little excess in windows. Maybe if those weren't necessarily doors or sliding doors, maybe if they were French doors?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the first floor fenestration on the rear elevation is a bit heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that would solve the problem with those, not the recessed three doors, but the ones on the corner of the house, or toward the corner. If that was reduced from 3 to 2, it would also align better with the windows above, and I think it would mitigate any light pollution issue as well. Other than that, I think it looks much better. I'm very thankful the balcony is gone. So.
But we have reduced the glass down quite a bit on the
Right.
back. I mean, between taking this out,
Yep.
reducing this, taking out a panel from that. We have, taken out quite a bit of glass here already.
Yeah, I appreciate that. At the same time, as I listen to Susan and John, I find myself agreeing with them, particularly since this property, that's the rear elevation, but it's a corner property, so it's exposed to the street, and therefore we're even more sensitive to the issue of light pollution. So to the extent those 2 sets of windows of 3 panels each could be shortened to 2, which is essentially just taking off the far left and right sections, so that you're left with 1, 2, 3, 4 panes of glass, laterally. Yeah, I think that would work nicely, and I think John's point about it being a little bit more in balance with the windows on the gable, second floor gable, I think
What?
makes sense.
I don't understand why
Yeah,
you need to me, it presents to me as a wall of sliders, 6.
Yeah.
And to me, that should not, first of all, I don't think it makes any sense, but second of all, I think it's way too much light. And it actually is unbalanced. It throws off the whole thing.
Unless there's a need for, unless there's a concern about interior space, because obviously when you use French doors, it eats up interior space.
I'm not saying
But I
French
know
doors.
that's not
They
our
could
issue,
ditch
but
a
I think,
couple of the
I think
windows.
Jane's point is French doors would look more elegant on that property, especially since it's exposed to the street.
Okay. So if I hear the board correctly, the issue we're down to right now is amount of glass on the rear of the house, but let's go to public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay. So I think what you're hearing is there's not a comfort level with the amount of glass that's across the back of the house, and in order to, get the votes you're going to need, it's going to have to be addressed. So do you have comment, or what would you like to do?
Well, if I don't have the votes, then I guess I gotta adjourn and visit you guys again.
Yes.
I would just like a
Unless-
little bit of
You
clarity.
want to vote it down?
Well,
Okay.
unless you want to just, could this be approved with the?
He cannot, because he's
No.
not,
He
he's not
has
here.
to sign it.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'd have to have we have to
Got
have, if he were in the room, an alteration could, but you
Got
can't
it.
do that by
Yeah.
Zoom.
I'm just going to make one comment. And this is a compliment to you, Ryan, and to this board, that in eliminating the balcony, although part of that has to do with privacy, I think the house looks better without the balcony. And the way, Ryan, you treated the rear, I think the house has a much softer and more elegant look.
I agree.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I could, I could stop down at the village tomorrow and sign whatever you need me to sign to get this done. That way I don't-
No, unfortunately, we're gonna have to be honest with you, we're gonna need to see drawings. So,
It's just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's gonna-
let me just ask this question, so we give him very clear direction. If the center door remained 3-panel, but the one to the right became smaller, would you be satisfied with that, or do you want both are you looking for reduction in both sets of sliders?
There's 3 sets of sliders.
Well, there's 2 sets of 3 sliders.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So
just
to
the,
me-
it's just the set, the ones that are recessed, they're
Fine.
fine with me.
But then it becomes like, to me, it creates a wall.
Okay.
And so, I don't even, so somehow that has to be made smaller. Does it have to be sliders? Or could it be windows, for instance?
Well, they're egress to the
There
backyard.
wants to be doors.
They've got to be some sort of door. So it's because that goes out into the backyard. So,
What about the other ones? How many egresses do you need?
we don't know what the interior looks like. But one's
So
probably
that,
part of a
the
family room.
bottom line, the issue is the
one on
windows
the
that are on the
right.
lower right side of the rear elevation.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's
I
it.
just want to be
Thank
clear,
you.
clear for him that what you're talking about. All right. So I hear you asking for an adjournment.
Yeah, are there any other issues? Because I would like to kind of make this painless.
I'm sure you would.
Do we
It
have
seems to
lighting
me
on
that-
the,
Are there any surface lighting fixtures that we need to talk about?
Everything's underneath the awning here, underneath the awning there.
Nevertheless.
Okay.
And you did provide a
Oh, yeah.
blank
And the last
You
time-
wanted to know if it was dark skies compliant, right? I do.
dark sky right there.
Where does it say that?
He's,
Right up
he's
at the top
highlighting
left.
it up at the top.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It says dark sky.
I love dark skies.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
So
So that's the only place you would have it would be on the detached garage right here at those spaces.
And there's no light by the front door, for instance?
The front door would be with soffit lighting.
soft light.
Oh, okay.
And what about the pool house?
The pool house, they're just gonna, I don't think they're really looking to light anything necessarily in here because you got a trellis You know, they're looking more for the ambiance of having the fireplace going. This is more like a night fixture, you know, when you want to go out there and have a
Right.
cocktail with your significant other and enjoy
So-
the summer.
So what you're saying is there are no forward-facing surface-mounted fixtures on the pool house?
No.
Okay. All right. All right, so I hear you asking for an adjournment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Motion to accept the client's request for adjournment for 10 North Woolley Street to September 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm gonna stick around. We got the next one.
And we're back to 69 Halsey Street. Give us a second so we can flip our paperwork.
Sure.
I hate this has to be done here. I don't like it to have documents left.
All right, so 69 Halsey Street.
Bailey Larkin with Bennett and Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton. In response to comments held from the public hearing held on August 28th, we had submitted some revised plans dated August 30th. The plans included a shift in the home west within the subject property, relocating the driveway to the east side of the lot. The rear second-story balcony was eliminated, and the west elevation was modified to kind of break up that expanse, which I believe was a request of the board. In addition, we had submitted a landscape plan showing maintenance of a lot of the existing screening along the boundary line of the property and supplemental plantings as well. And Ryan, you just want to walk them through the...
Absolutely. Ryan Kessler, architect, as you know. Can you see my screen, board members?
We can.
Yes.
Excellent. So as per our last meeting, you know, we shifted everything. We put the driveway over here. It was originally on this side. Let's get down and dirty here. We overlaid it on a Google Maps image to demonstrate where the house would live in relation to everything else. We are as far up as we can go at the moment with the current setbacks. Anything else throws us into a variance. As you can see, we are actually, you know, there are plenty of trees over here. They're going to be doing some landscaping all around as well for privacy concerns and things of that nature. The house itself, we went and we took off the balcony because we know you guys don't like those very much. And then what we did is we reduced it, of course. We added a trellis onto the back, and we changed the massing around just a little bit. Instead of having an opening with a couple French doors, now we have 3 windows and a trellis here. And then we spiced up the west elevation, adding a couple of gables over here to make it not look so boring, I guess is what the word is. And that's really all we could do because of the pyramid line. You really can't do anything on this side. It just doesn't lend itself at all. So with that being said, does the board have any comments for us?
Board members.
And another thing I would just like to bring up, excuse me, we added the shingles in here, and we did reconfigure this door as per your suggestion as well. Sorry.
Can you correct my memory, because I may be wrong for just a second? From where we were in the last time, you have moved the property toward I guess it's west. How
Correct.
far?
We flipped the whole property, so.
But then did you also pull it forward to the, because before you were behind the line? Or
We were
did you
back here.
did you pull it all the way up to the principal
Yes.
setback line?
Yes, we did. Originally, we were back at this corner right here.
Oh, it's existing.
That was per the first meeting suggestion to set it back, and then the community spoke out and said they didn't like it, so we brought it forward.
Okay. All right. Board members, comments, please.
I think it's much improved, actually. And more, the embellishments that you added make it less severe, but it's still pretty big. It's big, but I think you've made an effort to kind of make it fit in as well as perhaps you can. I need to look at it a little better.
John?
While I appreciate the changes made and the removal of the balcony, I still think the east and west elevation, looking at it from those sides, the massing is just overwhelming compared to the neighboring homes, and just makes it inconsistent with the environment surrounding what you're proposing here. So that hasn't changed.
Jane?
I would agree with John that the massing on both the east and west is out of scale to the neighborhood. And by removing the balcony, it just now seems that it's going out possibly a little too far with the portico there.
This?
It's farther than, yeah, it just seems a little, no, that's a front, isn't it?
That's the front, yeah, it's a front covered porch.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that the back seems to be, seems to make it look larger.
Well, the back just has a trellis on it, nothing more.
And the roof line has not changed on that?
Nothing's changed, ma'am. The only thing we've done is we've added this gable here and this gable here. That's it, and we took away the covered balcony on the inside, and then we added the trellis as per your suggestion to soften it up.
Jeff?
And we also reduced the glass in the back too. These were 12 foot, so we went down to 9 foot.
So you have 2 sets of 3 doors back there?
Yes, ma'am.
So architecturally, I have no objections. In terms, I think flipping the location solves some of the issues perhaps that the neighbors had. But I think it's a more practical solution too, in terms of recessing the house further away from the cul-de-sac. And to the extent that the folks who live on that cul-de-sac prefer the house being further up front than what was previously presented in terms of being further back, which I thought would reduce the massiveness of the house, then I'm indifferent to that. Is it a large house? Yes, it's a large house. That's an issue of, for me, code, which I wish was different than it is. Then at the same time, and we will be looking at other applications that have the same sort of large house among smaller properties or structures. But in as much as this is at the end of a end of a shared driveway, if you will, private road, if you will. I don't know what the heck it is, but it's surely not on Halsey Street proper. So when I take into account what the code allows and the location of this house in relationship to Halsey Street proper, then I'm accepting, somewhat begrudgingly, the scale of the house.
If the world were a perfect place, and it's not, if we didn't have the setback requirement, this entire house could be shifted all the way forward to the same distance from the road as the other houses on the street. It's not significantly bigger than, it's bigger, but not significantly bigger. But because of the required setback now to code, because you chose not to renovate the existing house, but in demolishing the existing house, it's forced you back into this setback. I kind of feel it appears bigger. It's not a small house, but it appears even bigger in these renderings than it actually is because its relationship to the other houses on the street, you've got sort of a longer void to the street in the front than the other houses have. That said, code, that this house meets code, and we're not allowed to say you have to move it forward and ask for variance because that's not, we're not allowed to do that. So, because the truth is, if the house slid forward and was probably 10 feet off or 18 feet off the street, instead of this required setback, I don't think it would look as large, as incongruous as it may appear here right now. So I don't necessarily have a big objection to the architecture because it is a big house, but it also happens to be a big lot. It's out of scale now to the other surrounding houses, but the lot is also now out of scale to the other surrounding houses, so I take that into consideration. I think what I'd like to do right now is open it to public comment.
Before we do that, might I ask, can we go over the landscaping plan? Because
Yes.
one, that's an integral part of it, of the submission. Also, we have the benefit of the aerial shot that Ryan has provided. And when I look at the aerial shot versus the landscape plan, it appears to me that there's more existing vegetation than what is being preserved by the landscape plan.
Okay. Do you want to address that?
I mean, also, if I may, just allow me to speak just for a second, please. This particular house here, this footprint is just about 40 by 60, which is about 2,400 square feet. Our first floor is about 1,700 square feet. So we're in context. Obviously, this guy, we're 72, I believe. This one's like about 80 by 40 or so. This one underneath the trees is about 50 by 30. So that's about 1,500, so about 200 feet above that one. We're taking these from GIS and Google Earth and something like that. So, what may create that, this looks that big is just, the zoning setbacks, as you said. But, the overall square footage, when you look at the footprints, we're going to be close to a lot of the surrounding homes.
I think
Homes on Halsey Street
I think
proper.
Ryan, when you and other architects, and I say this for the benefit of those other architects, go down that path, it's a slippery slope because square footage is two-dimensional. Yes, when you go to a two-story house and you stack one on top of another, it becomes three-dimensional. And it's that three-dimensional aspect of scale and mass that are concerned. And that's more volumetric than it is anything else. And who knows, maybe the code at some time should have a volume restriction, but it doesn't. But again, I think going square foot by square foot and one property to the next, it doesn't do you a service, at least not for this board member.
Okay.
From one thing I respect a lot is I think in your moving the house farther from the neighbor, sliding it forward, I think on the aerial it looks bigger because the driveway's all painted out white versus just the structure. It actually looks bigger than it probably is just because visually having all that white. And because a lot of what's white in there is the driveway. But I don't think it's out of scale with the lot. The question becomes to the neighborhood. And again, I feel if it were slid forward, which we can't do because of current building code, it wouldn't seem as, and we were painting the driveway out, the house itself wouldn't feel that out of scale. It would feel bigger than the existing houses, but not monumentally.
I mean, where I'm painting right now, that's the house.
Yes.
Right there. So it's not all that out of scale from anything else, really. It's basically this guy, but
And actually,
split.
from your aerial in the back, that back section is actually a trellis, right? Or a pergola,
Yes,
right?
right back here.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, you wouldn't even, right there. That's
So the
massive
actual house structure.
I mean, this is a covered porch up here, so.
But for right now, let's honor Jeff's request. Can you take us through the landscape plan?
I believe Bailey has the landscape plan.
Okay.
That's it.
The landscape plan provides for screen plantings along essentially all of the property lines surrounding this lot. Along the eastern property
Share the
line.
screen? Share the screen to see it, or do you
Did they
have?
put it-
I have a copy on the table,
Put
sorry.
it on the table.
I
Yes.
did.
Yeah, it is. Charles, Charles will work to pick that up. Give us 1 sec.
Okay. So the landscape plan we had submitted looks to have evergreen plantings along most of the property lines. Along the western property line, it's showing junipers. On the eastern property line, skip laurel to provide screening. Maintaining the existing screening along the northern portions of the property to screen the pool area. The main supplemental plantings are along the property lines in the southern portion along the east and west property lines there, so. Combination of boxwoods, junipers, skip laurel. Evergreen plantings to make sure it's screened for privacy.
Okay.
So,
Jeff?
you know, and this is something where the neighbors can and should weigh in. In my view, again, when I look at the aerial that Ryan provided, there are a lot more, and Ryan, if you want to put that back on the screen for a second, or if we want to put it on the table, we can. But there are a lot more, it seems, full canopy trees towards the north of the property and on the northern end to the west and the east that seem to be full-scale, full canopy trees, whereas they're being replaced with 6-foot laurels. You know, 6 foot is significant to me at my height, but to a neighbor, it's virtually nothing.
But are those the trees on the other lot adjacent?
It looks like the property line, it looks like those trees fall within the property line.
What date is the document you're looking at?
So
The
this, I'm
landscape
looking,
plan?
so if we're looking at
Oh, here you are. Okay.
this one.
This is an old aerial view.
Yeah, well, what I see is virtually, or in practicality,
Let me,
almost
Jeff, let me ask you this
Yeah.
question. When you're looking at the existing aerial shot,
Yeah,
the vegetation that's surrounding where the proposed pool goes
yeah,
seems to be there is a lot more existing vegetation and a lot more dense coverage than what
Right.
you're seeing in the landscape plan.
right.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay,
You said it so succinctly.
okay, because I kind of agree with that.
And which implies that there's basically going to be a clear cut of the rear. Now, I know your applicant is there, and he's probably going to vehemently deny that, but that's the way it looks to me. And I would say that replacing fully grown trees with 6-foot and 8-foot specimens is insufficient.
I don't think the intention is, the planting plan is to maintain all of the planting that's in the northern
That's
portion of the
not,
lot.
that's not what shows here,
Well, on-
Bailey. I mean,
Bailey, on the existing plan, there's 1, 2, 3. One says tree protection, and then there's a relocated tree, and then there's an existing, looks like sourwood
To remain.
to remain, but none of the other trees, which coverage we see on the aerial, are indicated on this plan. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's on this plan is a relocated tree. So the question is, what's happening with the other trees that we see on the supplied aerial?
Right.
Are they being removed? Are they staying? Or just what's the plan?
And let me suggest something, because we could go back and forth and spend a lot of time on this. Something that Susan and I did some time ago on another property, we actually went with the landscaper, and the trees were identified, which ones were saving and which ones were being taken down. So, I think that would be most helpful.
I think it would be too, actually.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be smart to understand that.
Right, instead of just bandying about.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about the pool being enclosed. Where is that line? Because I don't seem to be able to read it on the landscape plan.
An
You
enclosed
mean
pool?
the fence?
You mean the pool?
Yeah, the fence, yes.
Well, you would have a.
There's
well,
no pool being proposed, so it's irrelevant for
There's
this
what?
approval, right?
Yeah, it's
there's
all
a-
the way back.
There's a pool.
There's a pool.
I mean,
There is a
that's
pool,
not
yeah,
within
there's
your
pool.
purview, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. They have to have a fence, they can't
But
get a
you-
sea lion.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And they're tough about it, actually.
If there's a pool, there had to be a fence, and that becomes under that comes under the purview of the building department.
That's
Yeah.
just a
To
given.
make sure that you have to have a full perimeter fence if you have a pool, and if that fence is in the surrounding vegetation with access gates to the backyard, that's really in the purview of the building department.
All right, so there's no proposed pool at this point?
Yes, there is.
There is, yeah, it's on the plan.
There's a
Way
20 by
up,
40
way ba-
in the
way
very
up.
back, in the very back of the property.
What made me ask, it looks like there's a cable gate closure on the landscaping plan.
If that encloses the backyard.
Well, it looks like it says gate closure, and I thought it was a chain link fence, and I wasn't sure if that's what was
Oh.
going on.
It's a good question. I don't believe the intent is a chain link.
Hope not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't believe this house would put a.
I see what you're saying, but I don't think that.
It's a little covered by bushes.
I'm sure that's not the intent. I think the right next step probably is to walk the property with board members, mark existing trees, so we understand the landscape plan. Now, I'd like to go to comments from the neighbors.
While we do that, Ryan, I just want to make sure the color landscaping plan you submitted gets submitted to the file.
I believe so. That would have been submitted by Mr. Bennett's office.
Okay.
I don't do landscaping.
Gotcha. I see we have a black and white one. I just want to make sure we have the one that was shown.
Yeah, I can email that or whatever. It doesn't
Thank
make a
you.
difference. Sure.
All right.
Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martha Reichert, Toomey Latham Shea, Kelly Dubin, and Corderaro, 33 West 2nd Street for the adjacent neighbors at 71 Halsey Street, Paul and Rosemary Hunt. And assuming my papers don't fall off, I have some handouts I'd like to give to the board.
The handout part has got to be part of the file, doesn't it? Not now.
Alice, should anything being handed to the board have been submitted prior to this, or is distribution in the meeting okay?
I mean, as long as it becomes part of the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just presenting her case.
So,
Okay.
They're visual aids to sort of understand the landscaping plan,
Okay.
which I couldn't submit comments on the landscaping plan since it has to be in right by the submission deadline, which is really for the applicant. But so I'll have a copy from Ms.
For the
Larkin
file.
as well.
Okay.
how does it get into the file? It has to be stamped into the file.
I'm going to put this copy in the
Yeah,
file.
there's the
Okay.
file.
We
There's the
I-
copy.
typically.
I find that
You're gonna have to set the date.
the public then does not have access to it until now.
We usually do ask that neighbors submit comments by noon, just so we have an opportunity to make them available to board members and put them in the file, but it's up to the board.
Well, my understanding of the submission of all of the documents is that it's
Well, I
not
mean,
just for
in
board
fairness,
members.
if the applicant does their submission right at the deadline, how is she to respond within that deadline?
Can't
It's not
respond to what you
possible.
don't know.
Right.
Right, well, that's the way it works.
Well,
That's
Let's take a look, see what you
Okay.
got.
I just want to
No.
make sure the public has access to the documents.
If what Ms. Reichert hands you is something that you find you don't have the ability to review right now, when she's completed her comments, you can say that.
I'm not the public, I'm interested in the public.
Well, from here, they will go.
We're not closing the record
We're
tonight.
not closing the records. They'll
Okay.
they'll go into the record tonight, because we will be doing a site inspection.
Let me do this. Thank you.
I don't think this, I think that for the year.
Here's some trees.
This is previous, okay, we got that, seen that before. Okay.
But I figured it might be easier for you all to see it.
Okay, sounds like you're asking the same question we are. Okay. It sounds like you're asking the same question we are. Okay.
Thank you. It does, you know, I think at every turn, I appreciate the board's
I
comments.
am going to ask you to put a set on the table.
Yes, I have
Because
set on the
think-
table,
yeah,
and I
spread
think,
the- why don't you spread them out?
sure.
Because if you're going to speak to them, that gives Charles a chance to show them to the
So
public.
the public can see.
Does it work for Charles if I have them laid out like this?
Yeah. He has skills. See? He has skills.
So I think first I just want to go back to looking at the 1948 William Corral map, only because, again, it contextualizes how 69 Halsey became eventually a much bigger lot, but originally when it was laid out, you can see that original setback is in line with 71 Halsey. It's in keeping with the other houses on the map, and it was proportionate. They were all similarly sized lots, right? Which is what Euclidean zoning is. You segregate uses to be compatible. You impose compatible and similar restrictions, dimensional regulations. And so while I heard this board say that they can't require an applicant to put something in a non-conforming setback, I do keep coming back to the fact that this board is charged with placement and compatibility and protecting, at the end of the day, what everything in zoning protects, which is the public's health, safety, welfare, and property values. And so we keep coming back to the fact that this house, if placed on a conforming front yard setback, will loom large in the backyards of several adjacent lots and change the way they use and enjoy their properties and potentially impact their values. You know, zoning dimensional regulations end up being constrained by other parts of the village code all the time for environmental considerations, whether it's coastal erosion setbacks, wetlands, and variances are obtained because, again, it comes back to the idea of whether or not the development will impact negatively neighbors. And one of the things that I look at here with this board is that even when a project complies with zoning, it's not automatically entitled to a building permit. It still has to come before this board for the final sort of review that even something that complies with zoning still needs to be reviewed by this board with respect to its placement, right, its massing, all these different qualities that are laid out in 116, 30, and 33, to make sure that you are preserving the character of the municipality, to make sure that you are protecting use and enjoyment and property values. So again, you know, I would ask perhaps council if they can, she can confer with the zoning board's council with respect to this aspect of what we would like to request, which is I think that you would find consensus amongst the neighbors that they would like to see the existing streetscape and the layout of the buildings preserved the best that it possibly can. And I understand that this lot is very constrained. It has an unusual front yard setback in that it jogs to the south. And, you know, the existing house used that slanted front yard setback to sort of, you know, create a different style. And I think that it touches upon something the board said earlier, is that the existing house, even though it's pretty big, doesn't have that same feel, right? That same massing. And so those are our continued comments that we would like to bring to this board. We do applaud the removal of the second floor balcony and an attempt to move it further back, but I think there's still a huge portion of that front yard setback that's not being utilized because of the slants. And I don't know if that's something that can be explored, but it certainly would help in, I think, changing the massiveness of this house and then also perhaps preserving that sense of communication and unity that this house currently has with all of the other houses that were part of its common development scheme. And then to sort of go back to our next set of comments, which is the newest submission, is the landscape
Martha,
plan.
can I interrupt you for a
Sure.
second? I'm sorry, Ms. Reichert. Do you know how this lot became so large? Did it merge?
It merged with, I don't know the exact timing and method of when all of this happened, but there is a road that you can see, OC Lane, to the north on the map. That must have been abandoned at some point. And then there was another parcel to the north that it merged with. And I believe all of this would have happened before. If this happened now, right, it would go through a lot line modification process, and, you know, the different land use agencies would determine whether or not it was compatible with the neighborhood. So there was a process that happened, but it seems to have happened perhaps in the 70s.
It probably did.
But in doing so, it became almost twice the size
Right.
of the surrounding lots.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
So thank you for that. I am also accompanied by several of the neighbors who will give their personal reactions to the new latest submission.
Okay.
But I wanted to touch upon the landscape plan, and again, the board has sort of done my job for me because they have a lot of the same questions. I've handed out a handout that focuses on the trees that are along my client's common boundary, because the landscape plan did not show those trees, really which ones are to be preserved and to remain. My other visual aid that I presented right here to the board is sort of a transparency overlay of the landscape plan, to sort of point out that I feel like there are trees, mature trees there that have not been addressed with respect to whether or not they're staying. And then finally, if you look at the...
But I will say they were addressed by this board.
Yes. No, you were addressed by the board, not addressed by the plan with enough specificity to give my clients the comfort that some of those very large, beautiful, mature trees will be preserved. Which again goes to the element of their privacy. But on the landscape plan, down at the bottom in the center is a detail, and it is for a vinyl-clad chain link fence. And so, you know, I think my immediate gut reaction is that is not something that is compatible with this neighborhood. And I would like to see that perhaps addressed by the board. There's a drawing, and it does say, it says vinyl, black vinyl, and then it says CL as an abbreviation. And if you look at the fence detail, it's definitely a chain link fence with fabric on it.
Good call out.
Okay, that's what Jane was mentioning earlier.
That was
Yeah.
That's what Jane was referring to.
And
All right.
just for the record, I completely agree with not having a chain link fence on this property.
All right, so I am done with my comments at this point, but I am also joined by two different sets of neighbors that are here, so I don't know if you want to let them talk right now or go to whoever's on the Zoom.
Okay, now let's go to the live room first, please.
Hello again.
Hello again.
I'm Georgianne Kumar. I live at 84 Moses Lane, which is the adjacent property just on the other side of the fence. And again, as at the last hearing, I'd like to remind the board that this house impacts not just the cul-de-sac on the Halsey Lane side, but it definitely impacts the Moses Lane flag lots, and ours more than the others. With the proposed revision to the plan, we were very disappointed to see that neither the scale nor the setback was addressed. And by flipping the house, the negative impact on our property has actually been compounded. Because now the house is going to be sitting directly in front of our bedroom and our patio, more closely, in closer proximity to where it would have been, because the driveway has now been flipped to the east side rather than the west side. So I have the same objections that I raised in the last hearing, and I'd actually like to invite the board, when you come to look at the landscaping on the property, to come around to our property and to see the impact that this house is going to have on our property. It's quite significant in terms of privacy, light, and the view that we have. We're just going to be eclipsed by this house. So we'd invite you to come anytime you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just Georgianne, what's your address on Moses? 84 Moses. Okay, thank you.
My name is Rosemary Hunt. I live at 71 Halsey Street, and our property abuts the property in question. my husband has done a lot of work on this issue and would like to be here, but he is in his 5th week of recovery from the Vibrio bacterial infection that he picked up about 5 weeks ago. Anyway, I'd like to acknowledge that there are the existing. I'm sorry. I would like to acknowledge the fact that there have been some things addressed on the proposal, that they've pulled back on the balcony and the movement slightly forward. But it still does not take away from the fact that this is an enormous building structure that will be overlooking both the Kumars and our property. We're probably the only one in the cul-de-sac and in our neighborhood that doesn't have a pool. But we have a patio in the back. We have a lovely porch. We have these magnificent trees. And we're hikers and outdoor people. We love to sit outside. And we feel that we are going to lose all privacy. It's amazing. And we've been there for decades, numerous decades. And the Feldmans, who have really just sold this property, they have 3 generations, and they've been there and owned that piece that we are now addressing for years. And somehow or another, the way that house was constructed and developed was just, I mean, it was brilliant in that we had maintained, as close as we all are, we maintained privacy. I never overheard their conversations. They never heard ours. We got along, too, which is pretty good. And that is a very tight neighborhood. With the 3 houses, or really 5 houses that comprise that cul-de-sac. But the 3 in the back are the ones that are so tight and up on the cul-de-sac itself. So I really would like to see you reconsider, and for the owner to consider a structure that would fit in to that area, that it can have mass to it or space to it, but it doesn't have to be like a cruise ship. I mean, that's like the phrase I keep going back to myself, a cruise ship. And it's going to overwhelm everyone else. And it's certainly, I've been over and through this have met the Kumars, and I see what a lovely, they're very similar to our property on the other side. It's just lovely. They're outdoor people. I don't think they have a pool. And it's going to affect them the same way. So moving it forward, restructuring it, why can't we tier it and provide that privacy? All they have to do is study the structure of the way the house is right now.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No,
You have a question?
no, it's okay. I can wait.
Okay. Anyone else in the room? Then we have,
There's
okay.
someone on screen.
Someone on Zoom, please.
Hi, this is Vince Duramo. Like Rosemary, we live immediately across the circle at 69 Halsey. First, we appreciate the board's comments and thoughts regarding the mass and scale, which is my main point to this. A lot of the other concerns have been raised already, and I share Rosemary's concern, which is basically my main concern. Is it is just a large structure. I do respect what the board is saying about the lot, and I do understand that. It's just taking into account the kind of unique location of a very small circle that's kind of cozy and tricky to turn around, and it's a shared driveway in actuality. And it's just a large massed structure. So I completely agree with the board and Rosemary's concerns, and whatever it's worth, just wanted to voice our concern about the size, scale, or mass. I'm not sure what the proper word is, but thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. John, you had a question?
I just have a question. We can't compel the homeowner to request a variance. That's obvious. However, if they did request a variance, is the decision impacted by the opinions of the surrounding neighbors in a situation like this? And we have to admit, this is a very special situation in the village of Southampton based on the original design of the cul-de-sac, everything that's involved in this. Again, we can't compel the owner to request one, but if everyone represented here who's spoken out about, the placement of the property, which could impact the design, does that have an impact on the decision from the zoning board?
Well, I can't speak for the zoning
Or
board, and I can't speak to this application specifically, but I would say that generally, when considering a dimensional variance, the zoning board would consider the views of the neighbors if they were in support of a dimensional variance that affects their property, or if they are against a dimensional variance that affects their property, because they are the ones who are impacted by it.
And to that, I'll add-
to me,
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry, just like this board hears from the public in weighing its consideration that are outlined in code, the zoning board hears from the public, but considers the criteria that are outlined in code.
Right. To me, this is similar to when we had Heart of the Hamptons.
Exactly.
And that this board actually, they did not have to, but they went for the variance, and this board actually supported the variance application for that, because we felt it was in the best, it was best for the village. In this case, if the applicant decided to do that, this board would look at it, could then decide if it wanted to support that request for zoning. And that would be part of the impact, perhaps, to the zoning board. Can't say for sure, but it would be part of the impact of the zoning board in coupled with the request of the neighbors and the understanding of the special neighborhood would be my guess.
So I guess I just respectfully, request that the homeowner keep that in mind and, consider it. It may cause a slight delay depending on, or the applicant.
Yeah.
It might cause a slight delay in the process, but, I think that would resolve a lot of the issues that we've been dealing with on this property. So.
I'm going to make a general comment that council may say this is not the place to do it. I find this whole set of circumstances somewhat regrettable. Rosemary brought up the fact that perhaps the applicant, you sir, would consider the neighborhood. There was a time before there was a zoning code where people respected the neighborhood. You didn't have to tell people on Elm Street or other streets that everything should be 50 feet back. They did it. Now we have a code. That's both good and bad. People think that because there's a code, and they rightly can, build out to the max. Is that the best thing? People falsely think that we have the ability to legislate over that, and we don't. It's regrettable. So I ask you, Mr. Applicant, perhaps you will listen. It's your prerogative. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Yes, and if I'm wrong, so be it, because I've been on this board for 7 years and dealing with this stuff. And people should be respectful of the community. And that's all I ask. And Rosemary, your neighbor, asks you to do the same. Perhaps you have it in your heart or in your pocket to do so. If you do, great. If not, we'll vote accordingly. I said enough. I probably said too much.
Both of those may be true, but it's heartfelt and I know where it comes from. I think the applicant has heard what a preference would be, is fair to say. But I think where we're at right now is that the applicant is requesting, probably requesting adjournment because we want to come and do an on-site inspection for the landscaping plan.
May I just share one more thing?
Of course.
That I quickly did. It's crude, but hopefully it helps you a little bit. So what I simply did is I took the aerial and I greened out where the lawn is going to be, and I'm showing where the house is and where the driveway is and everything else. So you can see the proportions of this house compared to here, here, and everywhere else. I just want to show it to you on the record that, and the public for that matter, that we're doing everything that we can within the code to appease everybody, quite honestly. I don't think we're out of proportion to some of these other homes here. I don't.
I think, I
know,
hear you,
but
but I think what you would hear from both the public and us is at a proportion to the homes that are in this unique neighborhood. I think if this were a different time that neighborhood was proposed, it might have been a different kind of zoning for this particular unique street, but that's not where we are. So I do appreciate again the effort. Here's what I really appreciate. If you look at where we started this project to where we are now, you've shown us a very good track record of listening and reacting and working with us, because the house has moved, it has changed shapes, it's less balcony, it's moved to the west. So I think it feels to me like you are hearing and working with us to try to find an equitable resolution so all parties can be as happy as they're going to be. So that I do appreciate. But at this point, I think what I hear you asking for is adjournment because we want to come on site and do an inspection for the landscaping.
Yes.
Okay. So motion to accept the applicant's request for an adjournment for 69 Halsey Street to September 25th. In the meantime, Alex, you can work to arrange the site inspection with the building department?
Yes.
Okay. So motion for 69 Hall Street to September 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll thank you for your comments. We do appreciate them, and we do listen to them.
Okay, see you soon.
Yes, we will work with it. We will work with the building department on that. And thank you. All right. Next up then is 5 Carriage Lane to construct a 1-story addition. 5 Carriage Lane, is the applicant here? Great.
What, we're going to prison?
Oh, yeah, you can push those aside.
Yeah. Hello, sir, please, if you just... No. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Jeffrey Sands.
Yes?
I'm the architect for 5 Carriage Lane.
I'm going to ask you to speak over there because you can point, you just leave your papers there, aim them toward us. They have to aim toward us so the camera picks them up right side up for the public. Thank you. And if you speak from the podium, actually, that just sound is so much better for everyone involved.
Okay. So we're back here because we had there was like a little roof glitch on the drawings where the roofs didn't come together, where the addition ridge hit the existing house roof. There was like a little hip, and it was a graphical error. That's all we fixed on the drawings. Now everything aligns and it all meets perfectly.
It is a complicated roof line.
It is.
Board members? Anybody?
I mean, if that's the only thing that's changed, I see no issue.
Jeff, anything?
No.
Jane, anything?
I would agree that if that is changed, I think that makes the difference, that it's acceptable.
Because I'm probably one that brought it up. I'm going to say that sometimes a small change makes a big difference. And I think by lowering the ridge line to the height that you've lowered it to and having it look more integral has made a huge difference. And now it no longer looks like an addition. It looks like a part of a whole that could have always been there. So I appreciate the effort. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? Any other comments from board members? Then I'm going to move we accept the application for 5 Carriage Lane for a construction of a 1-story addition to a rear dwelling, patio, and converted to garage. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Thank you. Brings us to 53 Halsey Street. Before you begin, let me ask you one question. Are you in receipt of the historic analysis that came in today?
Yes, we saw it this afternoon.
Okay. Okay.
My name is James McChesney. I'm the architect for this project. I'm here with one of the owners. We were in receipt of the report that Mr. Sudenroth came up with, and curious about your comments about it, and any comments about the design of the house.
Okay, so I think we should probably start with board comments about the historic report that we received today. Let's start there.
Okay, so Zach indicated, so the village historian indicated two things of significance to me. One, that this house embodies the distinguishing characteristics of a type, period, construction, or style, or is a valuable example of materials, craftsmanship, or representative of designer, builder, or architect. The second thing that he mentions in his report that's of significance to me is that the house has maintained a high degree of architectural integrity. And so there was there has been discussion about expanding the historic district. That is not in place right now to extend to Halsey Street. I bear that in mind because if we allow this house to be demolished, there's just that much less of history on the street. And so I would be in favor of landmarking this particular structure, and I will be willing to go to the mat on that. Now, if the plan were to be changed such that the applicant would do what they had done at 63 Halsey Street.
57.
57? Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Jim. Where the original structure was maintained, but there were additions made to it, then that might change my view. But if the only decision before us is whether to allow this house to be demolished or not, and by dint of us either voting to landmark it or not, then I would recommend that this board preserve the history of Halsey Street by not allowing this house to be demolished, and therefore request that it be landmarked.
So Jeff, can I clarify? So you're saying that if the applicant were to withdraw their request to demolish the existing house and propose to, renovate or do exterior alterations, additions to it, that you would not proceed with voting to landmark, but otherwise you would want to?
Yes.
Okay, vote to landmark. Got it. Okay.
Other board members?
Well, I was surprised, actually, but I think that the
Susan, can you put down your mic?
bungalow, that if you go down Hill Street, that we have a bungalow style that is evident, especially in that part of the village. And I particularly love those little houses. So I was surprised, but I actually am happy about it. If it were to be restored and we didn't landmark it, I could see that would be a workaround if it were done in a proper way. So I agree with Jeff Bradley. I don't know, the other plan is so much bigger that you submitted, right?
The other,
The real plan.
You mean the current proposal?
Yes, the current house.
yes, it's bigger than the
Right.
existing house.
And also, are there not other outbuildings?
Yes, there's something right behind it.
There's one building that's existing that we're planning on just renovating and keeping, and then there are 3 little sheds that we're gonna remove, and then there's a garage that we're gonna
Right.
replace. in
So,
the
and
back of the
I don't know if
property.
Zach, was that part of Zach's purview? Not purview, was charged to look at that because they may be historic outbuildings?
They have, no, he says,
Yeah.
front and back door, blah, 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 blah. A small shed roofed extension on the rear,
One of those buildings is definitely old because we did walk that property.
Yeah. Well,
a couple weeks
that's
ago.
the one that
I
we're
believe
planning
I
to
believe the one that's in the middle that is currently, is there a CO in that little building?
Yes,
Okay, the one that has a little CO was considered historic, and you're planning to keep it.
correct,
And you're planning to use it as a pool house.
correct.
Okay. My only question isn't there a maximum required distance, minimum required or
There-
maximum required distance
there
between the pool and
is.
the pool house?
Yes.
But
Okay.
if it's
But-
pre-existing, I see they're changing
It'd
the
be about the
use.
location of the pool.
But we were given permission to treat it as a pool house rather than a
And
guest
it's
house.
there's no living permitted there. It's a permitted accessory structure.
Right.
Okay, so there's not a separate CO on it.
There is a CO on it.
It's a CO, but it's like a certificate of compliance. It's not for occupancy.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So I think what you're hearing, Jane?
I really find this a very, very difficult decision because I understand that the house is not in great shape and it's small, but I do think it is very much so what our village is all about. And I do have a hard time with voting to demo it. So I'm really have mixed emotions about it.
So I think what you're hearing is there is appetite here to try to maintain this original structure. I think based on the historic report in the year the house was built and its unique character and a way that falls in the character of this street, there is support among the board to consider landmarking the property. And we believe that based on the report, there's criteria that justifies the landmarking. The question is, from your perspective, if you took a stab at looking this as a renovation of existing property versus that, how would you feel?
We very much have already taken a stab at it, as we did on the property at 57, the property immediately to the north. And we just felt that the lines of 57 being a gambrel roof, it had a lot more ability to be added on to, quite honestly. The bungalow style, the house that's there, it's meant to be a small house. And to add anything onto it, it's going to
I
look
know.
overwhelming.
It would destroy the integrity
It
of the
will
house.
completely destroy the integrity. And we did do several options that we just weren't pleased with. The house becomes very long. It becomes, as someone had said before, it looks like a cruise ship. And it becomes out of character with the neighborhood. So what we really did was we tried to design a traditional house and a hip roof house with traditional details, all traditional materials. We did talk to the neighbor to the south,
Yeah, they were
and he is in, he is happy with our conversation. He did have a concern about the driveway there'll be two driveways parallel to each other, but I think we alleviated his concerns. We are planning to do a double planting along the driveway side. And we just feel that this is really, all things considered, the best design.
So,
Of course.
I was going to say, may I add to
Yes, you could.
yes, but come up ahead, but let me share with the board. So, and Susan may recall this, not that it came up before us, but a few years ago, the Planning Commission brought in a consulting firm. I think it was B&A or A&B.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It probably predates
And they had a bar chart of housing,
What kind of house?
housing styles existed before and what exists now. And two styles that were on the extinction list or on the list of, near extinction were four squares and bungalows.
So they're proposing
So,
four square.
yes, I appreciate
Kind of.
what Jim, as the representing the applicant and the architect, is saying, but the fact is, this is an historic structure and it's a disappearing breed, and we have an obligation to protect it. So, perhaps the only way to protect it is to keep it exactly as it is. And, that's something that this board has to consider. But it's a dying breed. That's an historic street in the
To be fair,
normal
it's
parlance.
not
a
in a
historic
historic
street
district.
now.
No, I said, I was saying I was going to do air quotes, but in the normal parlance of the word, a house built in, what was it, 1920, is historic in my view. So in any event, it's a dying breed that's worth keeping. And to the extent that I'm open for alternatives, as Alice put it.
It's not a historic house. It's not within a historic district, and it was not designed by a famous architect, nor has a famous person lived in the house.
Right, but
and when that survey was done, it was determined, I guess, that Halsey Street was not going to be in the historic district, and it's not. And there are plenty of houses on the other side of the street that are new, that are probably larger than this house. And, we would all love to keep a little cottage, but that's just not the reality of
I think
the
that's where
property.
we may differ, because it just obliterates the look of the village. Hill Street, they still have one in particular, one bungalows that came at the same time. And on the streets back by Halsey Street, that is a style that is part of the history of the village. Let me finish, please. And so, I think, to take out I realize this is one person's property, I get it. But it becomes like a domino effect. And I didn't write the historical report, and I was surprised by it. Having read that, I have two minds, but I hear what Zach Studenroth is saying, and I do agree that perhaps at least the vernacular is not being maintained around here. It is being destroyed, and that is part of this village.
I would agree with that, but I would also go back to what I said earlier, that the reason that you don't see a lot of these bungalows with big additions on them is because they don't.
I get it. I'm not sure that what's
then what do we
cool
do?
about it is that it is this little compact house.
Right, but my clients didn't buy the property with the intent to keep a small house.
We don't know it's sort of not our business what your client's intent was. So I'm of two minds. I'm open to what could go on, but I do think to obliterate all the vernacular structures, especially the bungalows from the 20s, is something that we are, obviously because of the historic consultant, are considering to landmark. Hill Street in particular too. There's a farmhouse, a bungalow, a farmhouse. So the farmers sold off the land in the 20s. People came out here for shoot ducks. I don't know. I think stuff like that. And so we do have a consistent pattern of that. But they did. They came to shoot ducks.
But so then is the board moving to landmark the house?
Perhaps.
What's involved with that?
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely,
Yes.
please.
Hi. My name is John Sedaris. I am one of the owners, along with my partner, Richard Hansen, of 53 Halsey. I think the rest of the board, Susan, you weren't here at the time, is aware we purchased 57 Halsey next door with the full intent. Let me give you a little bit of background. I was raised in Southampton. I have a passion for preserving, the village, its spirit, the character. I've owned 3 homes and 100% restored those homes to their, original selves. My last home was 237 Meeting House, where we currently live, and we made great efforts to maintain all of the proportions of the home, the original spirit, what it was originally designed for. I found a time capsule within it. Like, I am we have a tree that's 150 years old in our backyard. I do not move lightly to ask to have any home demolished by any means. 57 Halsey Street, we made every effort to save it. We found old photographs. We love that. If there's a home we feel like is worth preserving and putting our efforts into restoring back to its original splendor, are 100% for it. Another reason we decided to purchase 53 Halsey is because we weren't looking for a second home, but we understood that a developer was potentially going to purchase it, and we wanted to make sure that whatever went there was within the spirit of the village of Southampton. So we did a lot of exploration with the existing bungalow to see, what we could do with it. Could we save it? Was there something we could expand upon that would be worth doing? And ultimately, we did spend a lot of time doing that. We just couldn't find a way around it. So our request, myself and my partner Richard, was to, in place of that home, build something that very much felt like it was built over 100 years ago. I know it's bigger than a 4-square home, but the idea is that over the course of time, it was added on to, so it would look like it had always been there. So I just wanted to, for the record, state that we're not just willy-nilly going around the village to demolish homes, that we value them. So,
from a board member's perspective, we can't actually, all we can do is look at what you've submitted and the plans.
Yes.
We can't go into, because emotionally it's hard for
no,
everyone.
I understand that, but if we do look at the letter that Zach provided, I believe there was 6 criteria on there, and there's only one that he checked.
It only needs one.
No, actually, one he left blank to leave it at the discretion of the board.
Oh, okay, well, that's
Yes.
good. This is new for me, so.
Yeah. So Alice restated my position, which left open the possibility of you folks coming back with a alternative design. Now, whether that alternative design is adding on to this structure as it is, or something other than what you're proposing, that's also within the realm of possibility. I think, and you said it, John, you admitted that this is a much larger scale house. It's not a 4-square house as Jim originally presented, but admitted that it was not.
Well, it's in the style of a 4-square home, Jeff.
It's actually sort of an homage to it. It's actually sort of an
An homage.
Right,
It is.
and I was saying that Jim admitted that it wasn't a 4-square, that it was a rectangle.
No,
Okay, we gotta
he
close
didn't.
this off.
All right.
I don't wanna be
Okay, so I think where we are right now, is that, did we ask for comments from the public?
No.
Oh, do we have any comments from the public?
Just from the neighbor to the south.
We have a letter.
We have a letter, but there's no public comment. Okay. I think where we are right now is that there's a lot of heart and support for this bungalow house and this style in this location. And there's a lot of support on this board to move toward landmarking the house versus let it being torn down. I think what I'm hearing is the board would give an opportunity for you to take a look at that one more time and see if there was anything that can be done with this as an original, as a beginning or a starting point for a different design on this property that could incorporate this house into it versus tearing it down. So we could either vote tonight, or we could adjourn this to where you think about it for 2 weeks and come back and see if there is a plan that could possibly work before we make that decision.
So just to clarify, the vote tonight would be to vote for proposing the designation, not to actually designate it as a landmark, but the board would notice it for landmarking. They would get a more thorough report and address the criteria at another public hearing.
Or you could request an adjournment, could they not?
Yes, but as a part of that, we would ask that they consent to extend, the board is on a strict deadline to decide whether or not they're going to allow the demolition or if they're going to notice for the designation of the landmark. They have 45 days to do that. So if you want to grant the board more time to consider it while you consider your options, then we can adjourn and abstain from that vote tonight. Otherwise, I would encourage the board to vote on the designation if they're so inclined.
Okay.
I appreciate all that you've done in keeping the neighbor 57 and the other home on Meeting House. But I do feel like I need more time to look at the report from Zach.
Maybe we need a better report.
So, given these options, what would you like us to do?
Do we adjourn? Or,
I think, I think that we adjourn, but I also have to say that, at the last meeting before the report came out, there were no comments about the design.
Oh, yes, there were.
Not enough, there weren't enough comments that we went back to the drawing board.
Right,
And
I
so
think to
now
be
we
f-
get- And now we have to waste another 2 weeks.
I appreciate that.
And actually, we don't
I
even
don't
have
actually
2
appreciate that. I understand it. But to be fair, in the last meeting, we said we weren't sure in the history of the house, and the first step is to understand the historic. So what
Correct.
we did is we requested a historic report.
That is
It came in today. I wish it came in a little bit early. We'd had more time with it, but that's sort of where we are.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we had hoped to have gotten the report sooner as well.
All of us.
Well, we all
Yeah.
did, but the reality is it came in today. This is what we're dealing with. So if I understand, you would like us to adjourn to take a beat to think about tonight's meeting and come back with either a possible solution, and you're granting us permission to add time
2 weeks.
to 2 weeks to not having to vote, to extend our deadline to voting on landmarking tonight. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I move, we accept the applicant's request for an adjournment for 53 Halsey Street to September 25th. Is there a second?
So you have to add on the 2
Second.
weeks to this. So you have to
And,
say.
and that they extend the deadline for our vote on landmark process
Right.
at the
Second.
applicant's request. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next up is 400 Great Plains Road.
Just repeat it. because I just wanna make sure that it's, oh, it's a Zoom.
That should be probably Brian Brady back, I
Oh,
would
right.
think.
Hi, Brian Brady again.
Hello, Brian. 1 second. Let's get you up on screen.
Okay.
Brian, are you in receipt of the blue form that was distributed today? I don't know if it was distributed today, but for this house?
Yes, I requested it and I got it last week.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Okay.
You just got it.
Yep.
I did ask that it be sent out to everyone, so, sorry. Hopefully you have it now.
But it wasn't. All right.
Okay. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Can.
Yeah, okay. Let me get rid of that. All right, so this is the photo from that report from 1979, which shows, I guess, what was remaining of the original house. I don't know if it was all of the original house or not. It's hard to tell because the structure in the basement is the basement level is very, very small. But there was not really a concern for the architecture that I was presenting. What the request was to find out the age of the original house. And this report showed that it was somewhere between 1902 and 1916. And this is a picture on the right here of the house as it is now.
Yep.
So you can see that the original part of the house is still very much intact. And then where the entrance was, which is a little confusing from this picture in 79, was here, has not changed, but additions have been put on in the west direction and additions have been put on in the north direction. Some other photos to bring you around. So this picture here shows an addition to the original house, a one-story connector, and another addition that was put on around the year 2000. And this is showing more of that in context with the original house. Here's another picture of what was original. It's basically this corner of the house. And that's still pretty intact. I mean, the main rooms are all original. This section here is a new kitchen, but from an interior standpoint, it's all still there. This picture here shows the original house ended, or from the 1979 photo, ended here. This was an addition, this was an addition, this was an addition. I wanted to show this picture here. This is to the right of the house, and if I were to expand in that direction, this is a beautiful 100-year-old beech tree, which we did not want to compromise in any way, so I did not want to get close to it. This photo here shows the garage that was added. This is the original entrance, and this is where we're adding the shed for bicycles and strollers and things like that. So that's sort of walking you through what's there. This is showing what I am proposing, and this is the original part of the house. I am trying to do a new entrance, which really does not touch the original part of the house. That was already changed. It's an addition onto it. The existing entrance right now has a flat roof with a railing on it, which I thought drew more attention to the fact that there are no windows up here. So I wanted to just keep this roof line in intent with the other roof lines that I'm adding. And this is basically showing what I'm adding. And it's all in keeping, the same style of expansion of the house where there is a one-story connector and then another mass. All the materials relate to the existing house and to the original house. Same window style, same roof line, all of it.
Brian, are there any surface-mounted light fixtures on this house?
Yeah.
Surface-mounted light fixtures.
Intended.
At the front door, which I can, of the addition.
There's
Oh,
a
they're
spotlight.
not in the renderings, they're just in the drawings. Okay.
Yeah,
Spotlight.
there is a light underneath this little shed porch here.
Okay. Board members.
So essentially, you're just creating or completing the U shape
Yeah.
of the.
Right, and it's basically because of that huge beech tree I didn't want to get close to, and I actually think the U shape adds something to, the original approach is still there, the original, the gate is still there, it's a long drive, the entrance is in the same spot, and it sort of just, complements it.
Jeff?
I think the word that Brian just used is appropriate. It complements the house. I would be challenged to figure out what was built in 1902 if you didn't tell me. But stylistically, it's a very attractive design, and as you say, compatible.
I agree.
Jane?
Yeah, I agree. I'm just not sure about the two different entrances being complementary of one another.
Okay, if I go back to, so you can see opposite where my entrance is on the other side, there's another entrance here as well. So basically, there's 3 entrances to the house.
I think it's as you mentioned, the shed roof over the entrance that I just wasn't sure if that complemented the portico type entrance that you're changing the front door to.
And that was intentional. It's supposed to be very subservient to that, so that you know that that's not the main entrance, and it's basically just an overhang for weather.
From my perspective, I would say the quibbles I have with this house were the quibbles from the previous renovation, not what you're doing
Yeah,
to it.
me too.
Because they actually, the door was moved, so I don't know which way I'm going here, but to the left, from where it originally was under that overhang, and then the window configuration on the original structure, but that's existing. So I think when we were on the property, the owner talked about, quite passionate about that tree. He was very careful to make sure nothing happened to it. As a matter of fact, there's several specimen trees that he is very proud of and very concerned for, which we respect because it's maintaining all those old original trees. So from my perspective, I think it's additive, and I think it looks good, and I think it's complementary to what is already existing. And a lot of what's existing was from the 70s, and it's just actually making a little more sense of it. Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so I believe I should move to, are we sitting, wait a minute, this is not in the historic district.
No, it's not.
No, okay. So I move, motion to accept the application for 400 Great Plains Road. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Something.
Brian, thank you, and also
did
appreciate Alex finding the
So,
sheet,
yeah.
and appreciate the update on the
Yep.
historic information.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay, which brings us to,
I just want to note 71 Hill Street is adjourned to the next meeting, so maybe I can reach out to the applicant to see if they'll be ready. I understand they're, have a new concept that they're going to the trustees with.
we have talked to the attorneys about this, because it's the attorney's representative here. We have already let it be known that we're going to require this to be renoticed. The tricky part is they want to leave it on the agenda so they don't lose a slot. But seems to me at this point we should be taking it off the agenda.
And what is this, talking to the trustees?
This is,
What is that?
There's a special permit involved that is issued by the Board of Trustees, and I understand that they're making an application for a revised special permit.
Then why would we hear anything?
What are we doing?
we're
This is just
still
more of the
we'll still
same.
have to review it
I
architecturally.
have to
'Cause
do the
yes.
whole,
yeah.
But
But if we've adjourned this thing about 6 times, and the applicant and the attorneys have been notified that we will force it to be renoticed. So I don't actually understand why we keep it on the agenda. We're just allowing it to hold a slot. I think it should be removed from the agenda.
Okay.
Well,
Let's
it's
do
been
it.
adjourned to the next meeting, so it seems like.
Well, it's adjourned to September. We've
Right.
already approved it to be adjourned to September
Correct.
25th. So when we get to
Oh,
September
yeah.
25th,
Okay.
then we cannot extend it. Is basically the answer to that. Because right now we have adjourned it to September 25th. But we've been very clear of what our expectation will be with this, with both the applicant and the attorneys. Next up is 1430 Meadow Lane LLC 1 and 2 for construction of a detached garage. Hello?
Bailey Larkin with Bennett Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton, with Bruce Sperano, the project architect. This is a proposal for construction of a detached garage. It actually will serve essentially as a tennis pavilion garage. It's located at the end of the existing tennis court. It's an existing developed property. There's a proposed garage has been located at approximately 90 feet back from the street, right at the end of the tennis court. It's a flat roof structure, lower in height than required, approximately 10 feet 8 inches. And again, it's intended to serve as both the garage and essentially the tennis pavilion. Can I ask Bruce if he would just share his plans with you? Oh, there you go. Do you want to walk them through? Yeah. Go ahead.
Good evening. Bruce Sperano, architect of record for the applicant. So, we'll just get to structure. This is an overview of the property. This is an oceanfront property, beautiful property. House was rebuilt in 2007. And so we're asking for an accessory structure on the property, and what we're really trying to do is to defer to the landscape. So we're trying to do everything we can to amplify the beautiful landscape that's there, and have the architecture kind of recede to that. So all the material choices and the form, the mass and the scale of the project reflect that. And so, so this is the entry gate. We're not doing no proposed renovation. So if you drive by, you'll see the entry gate. We are proposing additional screening from Meadow Lane, and right now you can't see the main house in Meadow Lane. It's a modernist structure, and kind of harken to the mid-century modern legacy in this area. And so on the accessory structure, we're picking up on some of the materials that we have on the primary structure. So it's basically three materials basically. It's Ipe, which are the darker materials, kind of a unfinished Ipe, which has turned a beautiful silver from the weathering. And then we have a white painted cedar, and then lots of glass. It's a house on the ocean, and the house is really trying to open itself up to the views. It also gets beautiful bay views and sunsets. So the accessory structure, it's just south of the tennis court. And what we tried to do is make it less of a garage and almost like an open pavilion. We really tried to do everything we could to kind of make it disappear as much as possible. So we picked up on the cedar and emphasized that. We felt like if we had used painted white, it might call attention to itself. So it's really trying to kind of be more humble in this whole scheme. We also have a flat roof, which is kind of complement to the primary structure, and then we also are proposing a green roof to the top of the structure. And the idea is that it would be open from both sides, and it could also kind of function as almost like a tennis pavilion. So if you're inside this, you could kind of oversee the tennis court. So.
Oh, I see. The green roof.
Kind of, yeah. And that's the idea. It actually sits lower elevation-wise than the main structure, and we really just tried to make it disappear. So that was the overall aesthetic drive to this project.
And that's meant to be a parking area off to the side, where the blocks are, the staggered blocks?
Yeah. Actually, let me show those. So this is a site plan. So we do have some. Right now, there's again, there's no change to Meadow Lane. There's an existing gate, existing landscape. This driveway is all existing up to the primary structure. We're proposing this, kind of parking court, which would be in front of the new. And the idea, we're still sort of working through this, but I think the idea is if any way we can kind of soften that up. Make it sort of more part of the landscape. That's what we're trying to do. So we're sort of weaving in some of the grass elements with the pea gravel, just to kind of make it blend with the landscape as much as possible.
Bruce, can you just go back to the site plan?
Yep. So this rendered site plan is probably the
Well,
most-
actually, no. Can you go back to the
Oh, yeah.
schematic
Yeah, absolutely.
with the black and white,
Yep.
the line drawing?
You got it.
So, help me out. So Meadow Lane is to our right.
Right.
Okay.
Meadow Lane's down with the driveways.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then what you're proposing is just where those two cars are, right? And
Yep.
what's the dark area in the back?
That's the pavilion.
That's the
Or
roof
the-
of the pavilion.
No, all the way to the left.
Oh, that's the house.
That's the house. Okay,
This is the
just want to
primary,
make
yeah.
sure. And that's so nothing's going to change from the beach. You're not going to see anything. It's all from the front. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So it's a front yard accessory building on Meadow Lane.
Yes.
What is the legal situation about this?
Where we are,
Currently legal.
It is?
Where we are right now is that there are, again, when I drove down, right now, currently the trustees passed a code on the 11th of August, striking from the code front yard accessory buildings on waterfront properties. This was filed on the 10th. In the meantime, but to be fair, in the meantime, that code has not been adopted because it has not gone in front of SECRA and it did not go in front of town planning?
County.
County. So county. So right now that law is not code. So as the code currently exists, as the code currently exists, front yard accessory buildings are allowed.
It's a short version of it.
But I will say that if you, similar to what we talked about earlier, if you drive down 730, 140, and 450, if you look aerially, are not dissimilar in that there are front yard accessory parking structures that are hidden from the road by vegetation, therefore you don't see them. And this seems to me it would be the case, but in terms of where current code is right now, it is a legal front yard accessory structure.
Yeah, that's all good.
I spent
I
2
got-
hours on that today.
The issue, the question, I wish there was more of a style alignment with the house and the structure. The structure seems so heavy. I mean, maybe it's the coloring of the wood and the way it's like, when you first put it up there, it looked like to me like a big pool table. I'm sorry, but that's the way it felt. It just seems so massive compared to like you said, the designs of the house, which are very mid-century, a lot of glass, a lot of, and the only other thing is I worry about saying this from this street is actually it's kind of the same problem we had with the house earlier in the evening. But the way the vegetation is placed, I guess it would hide it.
What are it's big.
It looks really big from the rendering.
Is it big?
It might be the renderings. And yeah, I mean, it's a great point. It's sort of striking the balance. I mean, we could have matched the material choices, which would probably be a painted white. And then we decided, it probably makes sense to accent the cedar because it almost sort of recedes into the vegetation
I totally get that.
in a way. And the other thing, just sort of, it is an 800 square foot accessory structure. But we tried to make it as light as possible,
Yeah.
and that's what this sort of literal transparency that is through the building. We almost would love to, we sort of visualize it as almost sort of an open air pavilion and to be as light as possible.
And do you have a rendering of this with the doors closed?
I don't.
Oh, what's the height?
And do you have?
They're doors?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a garage. They're garage doors. They're glass garage doors.
Sorry.
So I have an elevation that we've submitted.
And it starts like a
It's all
convention center.
glass.
Oh.
It's glass.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
it's basically like two flank, two in plan. Sorry.
I'd like to see what it looks like with.
Well, is it glazing clear glass? Is it colored glass?
Is the framing metal or
Is it reflective?
what color is?
Yeah, we'd love to do these hydraulic doors, which would basically kind of come up and almost provide like an awning, and so you can see that in the section.
But
that
they
we've
would still
submitted.
be closed, I assume, at certain points in time.
If it's a garage at some point or the wind's blowing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea is that it would function as a garage, and it would also have the ability to sort of be an open pavilion.
I get it. I just don't. I need to see it.
The height of the structure, and this is I think an important point. I mean, we're allowed, we're allowed to go much higher. We intentionally kept it low. One, because of this whole emphasis to try to make it recede into the landscape, and also, there's so it defers to the primary residence. We didn't want to make a statement with this, so that's why we really picked up on the materials, but we really wanted to have the house be on its own and have it recede into the landscape. So just somebody had a question about the height. It's 9 feet.
12 feet?
10 feet, 8 inches. Thank you,
Right.
Bailey.
And it could be 16, is that right?
Yeah, we could go higher, so
Okay.
In our elevation, you see there's
It's
a,
not very tall, to tell you the
Here's,
truth.
here's,
It just looks big in the rendering.
Well, in the
Well, in the-
rendering,
It looks giant,
the,
but I don't know if it is.
it might be the kind of,
The-
yeah,
The
what's
the
the-
masculine.
what's the cladding on the exterior?
So it's sort of a mixture of cedar and ipe. The house, the main house, is painted white cedar,
Yeah.
and the sort of darker elements are an ipe. It's kind of Brazilian hardwood, which
Maybe
you know,
that's it. If I mean, you're trying to make it like disappear into the landscape, if it were more of a silver aged kind of color, it
Yeah.
might do just that. But with the dark,
yeah.
you know,
I have to say, like, I think this is the double-edged sword about renderings, which I like personally like. Yeah, I mean, if you go out there, the house is aged. The beautiful thing about this ipe material is it turns this like beautiful silver, which is even different than cedar. And the nice thing about ipe, especially out here on the ocean, it holds up really well.
Yeah,
I mean, this house is about 16 years old. and-
weighs 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, if you throw it in water, it sinks. It's
Yeah,
just,
or
like,
just if you
incredible.
build with it, trying to cut it would kill you.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
you just confirm, is this existing or proposed, this rendering?
So this rendering?
That's the
Showing-
existing
This
house.
is the primary residence.
that exists.
And then, sorry, this is the
You know,
accessory structure.
Just a question. You've got, we don't look at interiors, but it looks like you have a bar with 3 bar stools facing something that looks like storage. And then on the other side, you've got a restroom, but there seem to be no windows.
Because the things
It's
are
because
glass
Yeah,
doors.
but just if you go, there's like, you're looking at a blank wall here.
Yes, you're
And just,
correct.
one of the reasons I feel it looks so heavy is just nothing is breaking up the surfaces. Normally we don't like windows, but nothing seems to be breaking up all these big heavy surfaces, which makes it feel almost monolithic.
It's done in a modernist manner,
Yeah.
and so in most modernist designs, you know, the way it's composed is you do floor to ceiling glass in certain areas, and then you're kind of organizing the what we call the poche. And you wouldn't want to put fenestrations in that, so you try to keep that as solid as possible. So it's a play between the two.
So I think front yard accessory buildings on Meadow Lane are unfortunate, but you are legal, but I do. And it was a brief period when they were allowed, but we're in that situation now. So I actually think it's kind of handsome and kind of novel. I kind of like it.
I'd still like to know what the details of the hydraulic glass doors, what the framing is, how they're, the look of the doors themselves.
Would it be that, I mean, it's gotta be more sophisticated than the garage door that I currently have in my house. Where
Well,
you
just-
push a button and the
Do you
thing
live
goes
on-
Are these glass? I'm assuming these are big glass panes that are held together in some sort of
Yeah.
steel structure.
Yeah,
And the color of the steel when they come down is silver? Is it natural steel? What color is the door?
So it would probably be just to keep it, it's on the ocean, so I wouldn't want to keep it exposed steel. So we'd probably powder coat it or have some.
We don't like probablys, we need the details.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, you're absolutely right. So it's powder. It would be a powder coated steel hydraulic door.
What I'd like to ask for is a colored rendering from the street, okay, not close up, but from the street, as if you were driving by, excuse me, with the doors down, okay, because I'm not putting it together. Also, and maybe this is building a little bit on Susan's point, is throughout the village, and I realize that Meadow Lane is a character of its own, but we work very hard not to have street-facing garages.
Right, there was a change in the law that's now been changed back.
But it
which
hasn't-
was
but it has not been-
unfortunate.
it has
Didn't
not
go
been
on for
adopted.
very long, but they
Yeah.
fall under being allowed to do this, not to mention the front, tennis courts, drive down, swimming pools, this is all the issue
Right.
in Meadow Lane.
Right.
And so it's going back to the no new structures or pools or tennis courts could be granted.
But that doesn't apply.
Without a
Right.
variance.
Yeah.
Without a
That's a-
variance.
right, right,
So
okay.
here's the situation. So, I think it's 10 feet tall. I mean, it's not, I think it looks more gigantic than we're imagining.
It may very well, and so that's.
So personally, I also, I don't know, this isn't our purview, the square footage, they're calling it a garage, I've gone through this before in my life, in these boards. Is there a square footage? Is that why it's being called a garage? Because I get the feeling there won't be cars there.
It's above what would normally be allowed in the square footage for a garage, but they have tons of square footage on this, given the size of the property. It's
Okay,
an
got
accessory building. Here's what I think I hear the board asking you for. I think we'd like to see a rendering with the garage doors closed. And I think if your plan is to powder coat it, the board would like to see a sample of what the powder coating color is, and have that noted on the plan. And I think it sounds like from Jeff's perspective, he'd be comfortable just understanding from the street what you actually see. And I think, do you think you'd be able to provide those by the 25th of September?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Can I
So
ask 2 questions before we move on? The graphics you're showing, are these submitted in part of the file? Because I don't have that on the Dropbox.
And
Okay, so I just want to make sure that these get submitted.
We don't have those.
And to clarify, so this, you're showing on the plans, there's a front edition that's not before this board now, but presumably would come before this board. It's currently pending at the zoning board. So just want to confirm the renderings that you're showing are including that addition as well, even though that's not currently what's pending before this board? When you show the rendering of the front of the house that's proposed? Because we do have existing photographs, but there was a rendering that was shown, and I just want to be clear about what that rendering is and what's currently before this board.
No, only the accessory structures before the board right now.
But do you have plans to come with are there plans to come with the renovation of the main house as well?
Yes.
And are the pictures that we're seeing, that's the house as it exists right now?
Here we go.
That's going to piecemeal to death.
So,
And the house as it currently stands right now actually has a garage.
Correct.
Oh, that changes my ideas.
Well,
So are you breaking
What
it
are
up to
you
take
presenting to
advantage?
us? I don't feel good about.
what they're doing right now is they're presenting you solely with the garage. They're going to come back now after they finish this and come back with a separate plan for a renovation of the house. So it's being presented as a 2-step structure, and they're just staying ahead of the change in legislation. That's what's happening.
I know.
And whatever the intent is, it seems to me if you're that close, why aren't we looking at the whole thing?
Because they want the garage to be done before the code changes that would no longer
Well,
allow a
I-
front yard accessory structure.
Well, it can't impact us if they've already submitted before the code changed, right?
They don't have, they can submit
All
piecemeal.
right, they can do that.
This is illegal, this is an allowed submission.
No, that's fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
But now, in as much as you've opened up the door by telling us you have another submission, I may withhold my vote. Whether I can do that or not, I don't.
believe
I don't.
Jeff,
at this
you cannot
point-
do that.
They didn't say it,
Then I'll
Alex
vote.
did.
Yes.
No, well, I
And
just wanted to be
Alex did.
clear, because it's shown on the plans and there was renderings
Yeah.
shown.
But
I
to
just
be
wanted
fair,
make sure we're
as board
fair.
members, we have to look at the applications that are in front
Okay.
of us. We can't look at the application with an expectation of we can't, to quote
Yeah,
out,
well,
we can't predict
but
the
I
future.
see you rendering. So
So-
anyway, we'll worry about it. We'll
But
jump off
in
that
terms
bridge
of
when
what
we
we're
come
actually
to it.
looking at, we have to look at the application that has been put before us for consideration.
So I think, yeah, and
But
this
you
is what was
hear,
submitted.
but you hear what the board is looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And the gate is existing, correct? That's not.
The gates exist,
Yeah,
yeah,
gates.
because I couldn't go through it to drive up there to see the house, actually.
Okay.
All right. Motion to accept the applicant's request for adjournment for 1430 Meadow Lane. Is there a second?
Second.
To September.
To September 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll see you then.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Thanks,
We're
Charles.
Oh, is there public comment? Well, if there is,
We
we'll
can
reopen the
reopen it.
record. Okay. All right, next up is, and you messed well,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
that.
is
What's up,
242
Charles?
42 Toilsome Lane for demolition evaluation of existing storage shed and construction of a pool house. Hello?
That's what it said.
Yep, 242 Toilsome, is that you?
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
It's not really a pool house, but okay.
So there's no way for us, I couldn't see any, I couldn't go back. Well, I didn't want to trespass, so I'd like,
So this is a new
Okay.
application. We have affidavits and
And
they're
are they in order? Okay. I'm going to ask you, Lisa, would you work from that microphone? That way people can hear you and it'll make Charles happier.
I'm sorry, I'm freezing. I went out.
Yeah, see?
We saw the
See?
affidavit.
Given the options, take this one.
Oh my God.
Given the options, take this
we
one.
finally got
We're
air
lucky
conditioning.
we're
Yeah,
here
no.
in July. It was awful.
No, I do find them a little bit more
was hot, too.
energized.
Oh, it was
sorry.
horrible. This is big. How big is this thing?
So yes, this is an application, I guess I should. So this is an application to demolish it's really, I mean, you can call it a pool house, but it's really like a little, two little gazebo things kind of connected by like a trellis type structure. It's, one side is like a storage shed kind of thing, and the other side has the pool equipment in it. And so the application is to demolish that and construct a new pool house, which has like a recreation room, a gym, and a bathroom, and then like a little outdoor shower attached to the side of it. And it kind of fits in behind the existing swimming pool.
Is that the swimming pool that's gonna be on this property?
Yes, that's a swimming pool that's been on the property.
Are they changing the swimming pool?
No.
Okay.
That is a crazy rose bush. Is that what that is? It's like the bush covering the both.
Yeah, you can't
Oh,
see
yeah,
anything.
yeah, you can't see anything.
It's amazing.
It's great.
Anyway, sorry.
Yes, nothing will be visible from this street.
Okay, and we're doing a demo evaluation on this?
We didn't write it up as a demo evaluation.
Oh, okay, so I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I don't have one.
No,
Because, yeah.
it's
because
as an
the,
accessory structure.
Okay,
of
yeah,
a-
That's,
because the,
that's what confused me. I was
if
like, oh,
you-
what?
Well, that's what was on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I see where it says evaluation. Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
about that. If you want to landmark it, let us know.
Get right on that.
Let me know too.
Typically, when we have demolition there, we say demolition evaluation because that's what the board does. In this case, probably is not necessary, but I'll leave it to the board's
I
discretion.
think there should be, we should change the language to, because a demolition is the same thing you call when we're looking to landmark something.
Yeah.
So if you're asking us to if you're asking us to demolish something that doesn't need
So who's gonna
consideration,
do
we'll
that?
change the
So
language,
can
but let's move on.
Alex talk to
Go ahead.
So I mean, so we're gonna put vertical TNG siding on it, cedar trim, asphalt shingles on the roof to match the garage portion of the house that we renovated, about a year ago. So it's all gonna match match the house. It's just a pool house.
What is behind the north elevation? My concern is that the shed dormer facing to the neighbor's property.
Right. I did print out this area here.
Oh.
So this is Will Pappas' house. I actually did his renovation at his little pool house here. So there's a pool and a pool house on that side there, but it's extremely overgrown. Like there's no way any light or anything else will be getting through to Will's property.
Do you have a picture of the existing house? Because in respect to the board to say it's going to match existing when there's no picture of what existing is, because this is technically a new application, and it's not called out by color, or there's no materials, there's no window schedule, it just says to match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
It's called out that the vertical siding and stuff, which is the same as what was on, I don't know.
yeah, because in respect to the board, if it's, you know, we don't remember what we approved 2 years ago, and right now there's no details on here what existing is.
I actually have 2 printers and I had a problem with both of them and I wasn't able to print. So I can certainly submit it, but this is what the garage is.
Okay.
Actually, 2 printers.
Hmm. Well, they actually, maybe for next time, it should have been submitted to the file, so we could have seen it and the public could have seen it before tonight's meeting, because what I have.
She took pictures and
yeah.
she didn't take pictures of the house, so I
But-
apologize.
Yeah, because what's in the record right now is is nothing. So like, if I were public to say what is existing, look like there's no way for them to know. So this is really an incomplete file. But let's start with John's question. Any other board member questions?
That was my only question, was about the,
Okay.
what lies behind that shed dormer window.
And those pictures are in there. If you
Yeah,
take pictures from behind there, you can see
Yeah,
all
it's,
all the
yeah,
shrubbery
it's
there.
really, and it's evergreen shrubbery, so.
Yeah, somehow I think when I told her to take pictures, they didn't show them through.
Okay. Any questions?
No questions, no objections.
Okay, I really don't have objections. My one question is, where the Bilco door is, that's a foundation that's built where the stairs go down? I just want to make sure, because that's outside the 15-foot setback line. And there's a Bilco door, because I assume there's storage underneath there?
Yeah, that's for the pool equipment.
Oh, I have that.
We'll put the pool equipment in the basement.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Bilcos and chimneys don't have to meet setbacks.
I'm just double checking, that's correct?
I'll confirm with the building inspector. I
Okay.
assume that's right.
All right.
I'm not sure that's true. It shouldn't be.
It's nice that pool equipment is being put in the basement.
Like every municipality.
There's certain permitted encroachments, like window wells and chimneys
It
and
can
Yeah,
go in
steps.
okay.
setback.
Just checking, because it's close to the neighbor, I'm just checking. All right, in that case, I think next time you do me a favor and you'll bring me pictures and full sketches of building, not say matching existing, because people don't know what existing is, but I think it's good looking, feels like you have board support, so a motion to accept the application for 242 Toilsome Lane for tearing down an existing storage shed and construction of a pool house. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Okay,
We're in the home stretch.
almost there. Next up is
We are, because it's gates, we're pretty soon.
1450 Meadow Lane exterior 1450 Meadow Lane exterior alterations to an existing dwelling.
Oh, did we ask for public comment?
Oh, shoot.
I'm
Is there
terrible,
anyone
I
out
did
there?
not.
I don't think anyone's out there anymore.
Anything for 1450 Meadow?
Anywhere, Charles? Okay.
Eric Gartner is the architect.
I can't imagine that house is not here.
Why not? Well, let's see. Too late.
Okay,
Oh, I thought this was a really weird scene.
Hi,
hello?
can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great.
What's his name?
Hi, I'm Eric Gartner, and I'm the architect for the owners of this property. And we are doing primarily an interior renovation with some changes to the window package and some exterior lighting as well. I will show you some photos, if I can, of the exterior. So this is the existing house. This faces Meadow Lane, and this is the ocean side of the house. It is existing, as I said, and we are doing minor changes. This is the side of the property on each side. And we're not really changing the envelope in any way. in terms of massing or plant configuration or overall form. But we are doing some, I'm going to scroll through to the elevations, sorry. Here's the existing and up above and new elevation facing the street. And as you can see, we're changing these windows. We're getting rid of hurricane windows, putting in hurricane shutters and putting in hurricane rated windows. So that's part of the changes here where we are changing windows. We're changing them hurricane rated. But we're doing very few changes otherwise to the exterior. That's the street side. On the side, we are eliminating some windows for privacy reasons. On the ocean side, this breakfast bay and this, really just this breakfast bay and this pass-through window are being changed. You can see that.
I don't think your pictures are advancing, are they?
No, that still looks like the originals.
Yeah, we're still.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry.
I think you're speaking to pictures that we're not seeing.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I will, I apologize for that. There you go. So this is the ocean side, as I think you can see now.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're getting rid of these bay windows in the breakfast bay, and this pass-through we're enlarging and aligning with the sliders. On the side of the house, we're getting rid of a few windows for privacy reasons. On the street side, we're modifying these windows and then removing this door, getting rid of the hurricane shutters. And then on the other side of the house, same thing, getting rid of some windows on the bedroom level to provide for some privacy here and here. Windows are really being replaced in the same locations. The siding where the windows are being removed is to match existing in color and texture and wood pattern. That is the short version of the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Apparently keep those hurricane shutters for 2 more weeks. One may be on the way.
Yeah. They will be there for 2 more weeks for sure.
We don't know how far that thing's turning up. Board members.
I think the changes are fine. They're essentially just replacing windows, more or less, and taking out a few. I don't see any issues here.
Okay. Jane?
Yeah, I don't see any issues either, I agree.
Okay. Susan?
When was this house built? Do you know?
The house was originally built around 1970 with some 1980s additions.
Okay, that's what I thought, just curious.
Susan,
I
your
think-
mic.
I don't mind your changes. I don't mind your changes.
Jeff?
No objections.
All right.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Thank you for reminding. Okay, I motion to accept the application for 1450 Meadow Lane for exterior alteration to an existing dwelling. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that takes us to driveway gates non-historic. The first is 118 Harvest Lane for Randall and Karen Miles.
It's been around forever.
They wouldn't notice properly. Are the Miles here? Okay.
Oh, but I've seen this 1,000 times, haven't
Hi, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, hang on. We got to get your picture up here on the screen.
I love the friendly deer.
Okay. State your name, please.
Karen Miles.
Thank you. Okay, you want to take us through the application?
So you guys had asked for a sample of the material, which should be there,
Yes,
Rovit.
it's here.
Basket. It's AZEC. You guys are probably familiar with that. It's a good wood replacement. It looks like wood, but it's pretty durable and, you know, doesn't need repainting every week, and it's good stuff, and it looks exactly like wood, and sometimes you have to even touch it to even be able to tell the difference. Not like the other PVC plastic crap. So you guys had asked for, the last meeting, you should have copies of the drawings. I guess the large-scale drawings, you said an 8 by 10 would be okay, which is why I dropped those off. The other drawings we had weren't to scale. So those are to scale. That's what the gate will look like when it's finished.
Is it possible for you to share a screen and show pictures of what you're talking about?
My husband is on because I'm technologically challenged as I was last time. You guys couldn't even see me. So he's on right now. Randall Miles, he has it. He can share the screen with you. Randy, can you share that with them? Randy? He's trying. See? There he is.
I have faith.
In the other room.
I don't think there's enough space between them. I think it's 3 inches.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
And something, the gap is 2.5, is that right? Are the,
Yeah.
the pick, is there 2.5 inches between the 3-inch pickets, as you say?
Yes, it's 40% open.
Is that, isn't it supposed to be more than that?
Policies, part of policy is 40%.
Oh, used to be 50%, okay. Is that right, though?
This doesn't look like.
Yeah, what if I put these on the
Something's
table?
wrong. I don't have my-
It's gonna be white. Yeah, it's the
It's
material. You
this
guys have
stuff.
to sample the material.
Okay, I like doing Vanna White, come on. Yeah. So.
Gotta put your video on to share.
Randy, you got to put the video on to share.
Thank you.
There we go. Sorry, guys. There it is.
There you go. That's
Yay.
a nice color.
I need to blow it up a little, it's really good.
So there's really no way to show the white against the white background in the drawing, so that's why it's shaded gray, so you guys can see the actual to scale specs. And that's why you guys had asked for the sample of the material the last time.
And the height is 4 feet,
2 inches.
42 inches, right?
And it will slide behind the existing bushes that are in the front, the arborvitae, so you won't see it when it's open. We just have a circular drive and an area that's cut away. There's no way, the way the driveway is designed, to put an open and closed gate. A swinging gate, rather. That is not, I don't know what that drawing was, but that's not even.
Okay.
If you hit the green button, it'll go full screen.
Randy?
I think that's okay. It's like,
If you hit the green dot, top left, it'll go full screen.
yeah, they just weren't complete.
I don't know, it still doesn't look 40% open to me. Anybody else?
No, it, you know, my
That's good.
math is terrible, but I don't, it looks too,
Very dense.
You know, we have guidelines, but there's not code. So when it gets down to it's what it looks like. And my wish would be that it was reversed, that the spindles, or whatever they are, would be 2.5 inches and the spacing would be 3 inches. I mean, you have a beautiful house and it's an open street. My wish for that street and for that neighborhood and for your house is to make it more visible than less.
Okay, because there are other gates on the street that are, you know, that are brand new, that are even more closed than this is, but.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Are we sure they were approved?
No,
Well, I don't know.
I know
Oh.
there's one at the
I-
end that is quite open.
Yes,
It has.
there's the
yeah.
keys in the middle of the block. We know
Yeah.
a lot of people on that
There's
block.
one 3 doors down from us, it's brand new construction from 2 years. But the reason we have it closer like this is we have 2 very small dogs. And
Okay, so
Bigger than 3
our
inches?
consideration is actually for the transparency. We
Right.
don't take into consideration what's behind the gate.
I get
It's
it,
about
yeah.
it's about the transparency. And you've got 4 people sitting here looking at this, and all of us are challenging whether this is actually 40%, which means there's not a comfort level with the amount of transparency in the glass with the board members you need to get a vote.
Okay, well, all right, so I can go back to the draftsman and have him reverse what you're saying, have, where the,
Well, you'd
Yes,
have to
it-
build it that way then,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, go back to whoever's manufacturing the gate and tell them that what you were looking for is, even if they were 3 and 3, because right now you've got a 2.5-inch gap and a 3-inch picket. That's a
Right.
little over. I don't think you're quite at 40% when I do the math. It looks like you're about 8 inches short of 40%. But
Okay.
even if they were 50-50, that would help, or reverse it to where what you currently have as gap, make 2.5-inch pickets and 3-inch gaps would be great.
okay, all right. So
All
we'll
right.
come back with that. Do you guys need the full-scale drawings again, then the large-scale draftsman drawings?
Yes,
with-
please. Yes, please.
Okay, okay, so can we, if we get it done in 2 weeks, can we come back?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Round 12?
Of
I'm
course.
not trying to slow you
Of
down,
course.
really.
Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay.
Crickets.
right.
Motion to accept the applicant's request for adjournment to September 25th for 118 Harvest Lane. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
No one
Aye.
seconds.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll see you on the 25th.
Thank you, guys, have a good night.
Next up is 50 Hildreth Street for as-built driveway gate.
Approved. Except if it's the plastic.
So this is a new application. We
Is
have
it-
affidavits
yeah,
and
and they're in order.
Thank you.
Oh,
I have no hands. No one until,
No one's there?
nope.
Okay. Oh, okay, so I'm just going to put a little out here for the record. When this came in, this house originally had gates prior to a sale. They were in pictures from last year. The gates were removed in January. The request was to put back in already manufactured gates, but those gates that had existed were 11 feet from the road, so they weren't compliant because code requires the gates be 18 feet back. Alex brought this to their request today. They submitted a survey showing us what the new survey with the gates, 20 feet, I believe, off the street. But what that survey did not show is how those gates attach to anything. Right now, what we have a picture of is gates floating in the middle of a driveway. So if they're going to come back, we're also going to want to see a landscape plan to show how the landscape is being adjusted to attach the driveways, which right in the gates that are right now floating in the middle of a driveway. So if you're listening, that's what we will be looking for. Okay, so I'm going to move, well, I don't have a request for an adjournment.
Well, just take jurisdiction and adjourn it.
Okay. I move at the chair request, we adjourn the application for 50 Hildreth Street to September 25th.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. And a work session for 154 Powell Avenue to revert the color samples as per approval.
I made it.
You've had a long night for
You
that.
have good timing, sir, I think.
Gosh.
He does, and he's patient. And he listens.
And you are always cheerful, which at this
Yes,
hour of the
he's
night is always
amazing.
appreciated.
Otherwise I would have fallen asleep.
Oh,
You're welcome.
We're that boring.
No, but I mean, I was just,
all right, here we go.
so, my name is Matthias Toner, I'm the architect for the property owner, and in our last meeting, you approved the design,
But not the color.
you
Right.
approved the demolition, and I was not correct, or I didn't show properly the colors and
So
materials.
can you put that down so he can pick it up? Thank you.
Yes.
And we can see it too.
So, we have here a sample of the roof material, which is an architectural asphalt
Asphalt
tile,
tile.
as we call it. We have here the original sample from the window company.
Do me a favor.
Move your
Can you just go over there? Just speak from over there and leave that there, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so the
we are
middle is,
showing
the middle is the window color.
window color and the accent, which is the band which runs between the roof line and the body of the building. And then we have the color for the siding and the paneling, which is a lighter gray. And these are the three colors we have. It is. I saw that in my rendering, the colors come out darker. So I'm
Yes,
very happy that
there was a
they
concern
are,
that the windows look too black.
they are looking actually. I can bring it over to you so you have a look. You want to?
No? Yes, actually.
Yes.
When in Rome. We have the ability, let's actually look at it. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I need this.
So what's the window trim? This is the window.
This is the window color.
It's
And-
labeled
and
also. It says because
it's
I
the
use the
band
same board.
and the windows.
And that's the cladding.
Right, so this is this.
Yeah, and
This
this.
is this, and this.
I mean, I don't think it's not, it doesn't read as dark as I thought it
Yeah.
did last time.
Right, what? Are you happy with this color?
I think it's okay.
You
Yeah, I
happy
think
with
it's
this color?
okay, yeah.
Sounds like we're happy with this color. So, for the record, could you just read off the name of those colors so when they're doing the minutes, they can put it into the minutes?
Okay.
But you have to go to the microphone.
So the color of the siding, the panel, and the planks is called. I have to put my glasses on.
Do you want me to do it?
No. I love that.
I'll do it.
It's called light mist.
Okay,
Fabulous.
okay,
It's the most beautiful poetic name of this color.
okay.
So we have that. The color of the windows and the accent trim and the band is called Cadet Gray.
Cadet,
Cadet, C-A-D-E-T.
for spelling,
Cadet,
for
Cadet
spelling,
Gray.
so she'll get that right, okay. And do you have a manufacturer on that?
It's Anderson.
Okay, great, thank you. And the Burrell siding?
And the
Oh,
other.
it's Hardy board, right?
It's Hardy board, yeah.
Okay, and the Hardy board manufacturer color?
That is light mist.
Light mist. And the...
And
did
the
you-
asphalt roof is, I think I have that, don't have one of those big ones here.
At the microphone.
They didn't really specify the color here. Oh yeah, no, it was called pewter gray.
Okay, and the manufacturer's name is?
Timberline.
Great, thank you. Okay. Board members, we good?
Yeah.
Are there any public comments? We don't need them, it's a,
Thank you.
it's a work session. Okay,
You're
what
very
do we
welcome.
need to do to approve this?
Just
Motion?
motion to approve the colors.
Okay, motion to approve the presented color palette as stated for 154 Powell Avenue. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right,
And just a question, we have the demolition is already approved, so we can basically apply for a demolition permit at any time now.
With the building department.
If
that's
we
right.
have the asbestos reports. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
I'm going to motion to close the September 11th meeting of the Southampton Village Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.